What's up, guys? Thanks for joining me. We got a great guest again. My friend Mike Cilio is back. Mike was on right after the first Trump assassination attempt. Mike, how you doing, bro?
Good, and it's great to be back here, man. Really
Good,
is.
thank you. It's great to see you again. We're going to get right into it. We're going to watch a Bret Baier, Kamala Harris interview. Let's go to it now.
Vice President, thank you for the time.
Thank you. It's good to be with you, Bret.
You know, voters tell pollsters all over the country and here in Pennsylvania that immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election, and specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries. How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you
now,
just a number? Do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Bret, let's just get to the point. Okay.
Dude, when she says let's just get to the point, you know what she really means, right? She means let's just get to my talking points.
Well, that's what I was going to say there is she just wants to have these little sound or these little video clip moments that she could put on her Twitter and put in the campaign ads. And she always likes to interrupt, and especially if it's a male interviewer, you know, and she tries to project herself as this powerful woman. And she loves those moments. And that's what, there's a lot of gotchas here that she tries to exercise over Bret, but he does a pretty good job from what I remember of you know, trying to interrupt politely and ask the question.
Yeah, and of course the media is saying that he was rude.
Well, yeah, I knew that was coming, and while I was watching it, I said to myself, "That's going to be the soundbite the next day that, you know, he's a sexist and he wouldn't let a woman speak," and that's what I think she was going after. I think they were trying to get that gotcha moment.
Yeah, you know what? A female should have done it. I wish Megyn Kelly would have interviewed her. She won't. Yeah. She won't, because then it would have been woman to woman, and they wouldn't have been able to say anything. But they'd make up something to say anyway. So how do I do this? All right. So all right, let's go.
Okay, the point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So you're,
dude. I know. Sorry. Listen, the immigration system isn't broken. Right. There are laws on the books right now. She just doesn't want to enforce them. When you hear the Democrats say we have a broken immigration system, what they're really saying is the current laws do not allow them to be citizens.
Right.
That's what they think is broken, that we can't let them, we can't give a blanket amnesty.
It's the inverse of the law itself. They're looking at it from a different perspective.
Exactly.
And, yeah.
All right, let me go. Sorry.
That's okay.
Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have an immigration.
Can I just stop you there? She loves the "I'm not finished." You know, if you remember the debate with Trump, she did the same thing. Then she put a hand on her chin and looked over very like condescendingly, and she was combative right out of the gate here, out the gate. You know, and.
Dude, she did the same thing in the Pence debate, and I just saw a clip of her yesterday. I'll put it in post, where she was grilling Bill Barr.
Yeah, but I'm trying to grapple with the word suggest. I mean, there have been discussions of matters out there that they have not asked me to open an investigation, but
perhaps they've suggested.
I don't know. I wouldn't say suggest.
Hinted.
I don't know.
Inferred. You don't know. Okay. In your March 24th summary, you wrote that, quote, after reviewing the special counsel's final report.
But I will say that no one.
Sir, I'm asking a question.
Yeah, she likes those moments. And it's in every interview or debate she does with a male all the time. All the time.
That's what I was hoping would be Megyn Kelly. Martha McCallum would have been good. But I mean, I listen to Megyn Kelly every single day, bro. She would have destroyed her. But she destroyed Trump too, bro. If you remember in the 15, when he announced in 15 for the 16 election, she grilled him at those debates.
Mr. Trump, one of the things people love about you is you speak your mind and you don't use a politician's filter. However, that is not without its downsides, in particular when it comes to women. You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't. Your Twitter account.
Thank you.
For the record, it was well beyond Rosie O'Donnell.
Yes, I'm sure it was.
Your Twitter account has several disparaging comments about women's looks. You once told a contestant on Celebrity Apprentice it would be a pretty picture to see her on her knees. Does that sound to you like the temperament of a man we should elect as president? And how will you answer the charge from Hillary Clinton, who is likely to be the Democratic nominee, that you are part of the war on women?
I think the big problem this country has is being politically correct. I've been...
Bret Baier was even tough on Trump too. So, and you can tell he doesn't. You can tell he's worried about coming across as rude, because he keeps stopping.
Yeah, and if you see his, everybody was concerned about this interview and the lead up, the 36 hours lead up to it, or even when he announced it. If you look on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it now, but he was answering every concern that people were presenting, and you know what? I earned a lot of respect. He's earned a lot of respect back from me, because I think we're all pissed about the early call in 2020 for Virginia, but
firing Tucker, firing
Tucker, but not only the early call, the defense of the early call. I think it was like 9% of the vote in for Virginia, and he called it, and he was a staunch defender of it. So he has earned my respect back with this interview. I think he did a really good job. And he got off maybe 4 or 5 questions. I think that was it. If that.
Well, he honestly, he did ask very good questions. If you look at the questions he asked on paper, and you're like, wow, that's a great question. Yeah. She just doesn't answer. I don't understand what the purpose of her coming on was. She's not going to win any Fox viewer votes for this. The voters that watch Fox News are not going to vote for her because of this. But she showed up 17 minutes late.
Yeah. She wanted to eat into the time of the interview.
Yes.
Sit down. And just like I said earlier when we were speaking, she wanted these sensational clips, these gotcha moments. So then she could put it on her Twitter, use it as a campaign ad. And that's just how she operates. And I really believe that the people running her campaign, if you look at some of these tweets and some of these Instagram posts that they put out, I'm like, are there like teenagers running these things? I mean,
yes, dude. Yeah. Same thing with the Biden communications department. Megyn Kelly showed a picture. She goes, they're all battling acne. They're all late teens or early 20s. Right. It's just like nobody's over 30.
Yeah. It's like a Snapchat battle amongst teenagers. It's like,
that's exactly what it is.
I can't believe it.
Yeah. All right.
Million people have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question, I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So, looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath.
The
first bill that we offered Congress.
She's thinking an answer. She's constructing an answer.
We worked on infrastructure before
this is all stalling.
The Inflation Reduction Act, before the CHIPS and Science Act, before the bipartisan safety.
Dude, she's running out the clock.
You know what she's trying to do, Paul? If you remember in school or college, when they give you a 2,000-word essay, they have to fill. She's just filling.
She needs to go to a bigger font
words.
to fill up the page. Yeah,
that's it. And she's buying time. She wants to buy time.
She's going to mention. So there's 3 bills. She's going to mention Bill. What is it? HR 1177. HR 1177. That was, and Bret Baier names it. The name of the bill is the U.S. Citizenship Act that didn't even get out of the House. Bret's going to talk about it here. The Democrat-controlled House.
Practically within hours of taking the oath was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the... Yes, ma'am.
May I finish?
So he said that. He said it was essentially a pathway to citizenship.
Right.
Dude, I'm going to read you the first line. This is the first line of the bill. The very first, it's hundreds of pages. The very first sentence on the first page says, this bill establishes a path to citizenship for undocumented individuals. It was an amnesty bill.
You have to let me finish.
You
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate,
I'm
and they didn't bring up that bill.
I'm in the middle of responding to the point you're raising.
Okay.
And
That's what he means. She had all three houses.
Right.
And even though this was introduced in the House, it never went anywhere in a Democrat-controlled House.
Right.
She can't. Now, it's true. It's true within hours of getting sworn in and taking the oath, their first thing to do was to grant amnesty. That's what the bill does. That's what the bill says. That was the idea behind it.
Yeah.
But like all Democrats, she's going to spin it to say, well, we put a bill out right away within hours. Yeah, the bill sucked.
Right.
And the bill was going to make everyone who's illegal legal.
Yeah, and 6 Democrats didn't sign off on it. So
yeah, Booker and Bernie Sanders. I was surprised to see that.
Wow.
Yeah.
to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question,
Stalling.
it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one, then, we have done a number of things, including to address our asylum system and put more resources, getting more judges.
She's going to name all the things that make it easier to process the migrants to make them legal. Listen if you hear her say anything about building a wall or border security.
We needed to do to tighten up penalties and increase penalties for illegal crossings. What we needed to do to deal with points of entry between border entry points. That's the work we did. And we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan.
Yeah, I hate that.
I
hate that.
Yeah.
Obama used to point like this too.
Yeah. Yep. And Clinton.
Like
yep. They used to tuck their thumbs
effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, to actually strengthen the border. That border bill would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border, which is why I believe the Border Patrol agents supported the bill.
She's talking about the second bill now, I think, right? She's talking about the Senate bill.
Yes, she's mixing up the whole context of the question here.
But if you look at the first bill was January of 21. That's the one that was an amnesty bill. And the second bill, I think she's talking about now, wasn't brought up until February of this year in the Senate. And that was also an amnesty bill. And I'm going to play Jesse Waters describing it because he describes it better than I can. But the point is, you had a bill in January of 21. Biden was losing by like 40 points when it came to the issue of border security. So in February, 3 years later, they decided to come up with the Senate bill, knowing it wasn't going to pass, bro. Yeah. There's no way that bill would have passed. But you got these idiot Republicans who she says are conservative. Lindsey Graham wanted it. Mitt Romney wanted it. And Langford.
Well, that tells all.
Exactly. So let's hear her blame Trump.
Would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States, which is a scourge affecting people of every background, every geographic location in our country, killing people. It would have allowed us to put more resources into prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done as the Attorney General, former Attorney General of a border state.
Madam Vice President, a couple of things.
Trafficking of drugs, guns, and human beings. And Donald Trump, but let me just finish.
6 Democrats voted against that bill.
Learned about that bill and told them to kill it because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And in this election,
This is rightly a discussion that the American people want to have. And what they want are solutions, and they want a president of the United States who's not playing political games with the issue,
I hear you.
but actually is focused on fixing it.
6 Democrats voted against that bill. It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal immigrants into the country a year. A lot of conservatives had a problem with it. These are the 6 Democrats. But more importantly, back to the original premise.
Okay, so I don't know how to share the screen to show this, but this is what it says, bro. The secretary shall activate the Border Emergency Authority if during a period of 7 calendar days, there is an average of 5,000 or more aliens who are encountered each day. And I didn't know what encounters meant, so I looked it up on Homeland Security website. It means someone is given an alien identification number. So it's not a got-away.
Right, so they've come across.
Right, they're caught, they're processed. So once you get, and then in the second item, it says, on any one calendar day, a combined total of 8,500 or more aliens are encountered. So this bill does not stop immigration. It allows 5,000 to come across a day before they even decide to enforce any of the laws. What she's blaming it on Trump, but what normal Republican would vote for that?
Right.
It's disgusting.
It is.
Let me see when I got Jesse Waters coming. Hold on. And here's the other thing that she keeps saying, and I think she says it again later, but you hear it over and over again. This is what drives me crazy about her more than anything when it comes to the border. There's so much that drives me crazy. When it comes to the border, she's the only one on the stage who's prosecuted transnational criminal organizations. Yeah. Okay. She's the only one that went after these people. She's the only prosecutor. She's the one here's the question. If she brings all of this experience to the table, why are border crossings up to 10.5 million under her administration when they were less than 2 million under Trump?
Yeah.
Right? Like if she's an outsider, you could say, okay, she has, let's say it was Biden and he picked Elizabeth Warren, and she was the VP. And now you're listening to Kamala Harris say, listen, unlike these two in office, look at my experience, look at my history, look what I bring to the table. I'm going to do it differently. If it's just like the price gouging, dude, where she says, I am going to go after grocery stores who inflate their prices.
So believe me, as president, I will go after the bad actors. And I will work to pass the first ever federal ban on price gauging on food.
Meanwhile, the margin's only 1% in a grocery store.
Right.
Okay, if you're going to do that, how many corporations have you gone after since you've been in the White House? And why are you mentioning you're going to go after price gouging now where inflation is 3% when 2 years ago inflation was over 9%? You're waiting to do it now? She talks like she's an outsider coming in with all of these new ideas. Meanwhile, she's in the driver's seat.
Yeah, she's been the sitting vice president for 3.5 years, maybe more. And she had, she's trying to distance herself from the Biden policy. You are the Biden policy.
Exactly.
You are the Biden policy. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yep. Dude, let me get Jesse Waters in because he'll explain. I don't know if she continues to talk about the bill, but I mean, I researched it a lot, and I'm going to make part 4 of that series of the Kamala Debate Lies series is going to be about the border. But Jesse Waters breaks it down so perfectly. I just want to play him, and then we'll stop and talk about it.
It doesn't stop a single migrant from breaking into the country. That's not me saying it. The Democrat senator who wrote the bill, Chris Murphy, declares, quote, the border never closes. So if the border never closes, what's the $20 billion for? Processing illegals, handouts, and loopholes. The Border Patrol would start working on an honor system. This is Washington's idea of thorough vetting. Are you ready? Agents will now start asking border crossers tough questions before them in. Question 1, Are you a criminal? No. Second question. You say you're fleeing Honduras. Is there another part of Honduras that's safer? No, I'm scared. Third question. You passed through Mexico to get here. Why can't you stay in Mexico? I can't. I'm scared. Welcome to America. If you pass that test,
Crazy.
you're in. You have
That's
asylum.
amazing.
Who gives that test? Well, Biden's hiring thousands of asylum officers to ask migrants the 3 questions.
Dude, I read that in the bill. It's not, so that's important, bro. It's not, these aren't Border Patrol or ICE officers or even administrative judges that are asking these questions. These are pro-immigration, anti-Trump people hired by Joe and Kamala that go down there and ask these illegal immigrants, basically, why do you need to come in? And first they get a free translator, and they're going to be coached into saying, I can't imagine them turning anyone away. But when he says asylum officers, it's new people. It's like part of a campaign that are going to go down there.
This is like, it's reminiscent of the whole defund the police movement, when I think in New York City, I don't know if it was Adams or de Blasio or both of them, they were going to hire violence interrupters. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Perps.
Right? Yeah. So the cops don't worry about it. If somebody's getting beat up on the street, we're going to have a violence interrupter go over there and speak to them, and the cops don't have to be called, because police presence is very threatening. So it's no different. It's no different than that. And that's how the Democrat Party works.
Exactly.
It's laughable.
Yeah. It's like those violence interrupters were perps. A lot of them got collared.
Right.
And they're supposed to be, they're supposed to intervene, and you're exactly right. It would be the same thing with this. Biden and Kamala would handpick these people, probably given to her by Soros, to go down, and they would determine, not a judge, they would determine on the scene whether or not these people should be granted access or granted entry. So now I think he talks about the space. I don't know if this is in the next clip, but when you're 5,000 a day is allowed, but I remember one of the months in December you had 300,000 people come across in the month of December, so that was 10,000 a day. Listen to what he talks about when it comes to space for these people.
This border bill buys just 15,000 new beds to detain migrants. That's about 2 days worth of illegals we're going to detain. And once the beds fill up in 2 days, they're going to let them go, because you can't deport if you can't detain. Biden's border bill claims anyone they can't detain, which is pretty much everyone, they're going to strap ankle monitors to them.
Dude, listen, the 12-year-old, Jocelyn, the 2 animals that lured this 12-year-old girl, you see the pictures of her with braces.
It's horrendous.
Let me ask you a question. All right. You have one child, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I got 3. You got your kid's older now. My youngest Sailor, she's 9. Every parent knows when a child fears something, right? Every parent knows how heartbreaking it is when you have to hold your child down. You see the fear. Let's say you got to take out a splinter, right? The fear in your kid's eyes breaks your heart.
Yeah.
It breaks your heart because they're worried about, and it's a little splinter, but to them, their life is over.
Yeah.
Because it's so painful, and they're scared, just like they're scared when they go to the doctor's office and stuff, right? You see the fear in your kid's eyes, and it makes, it can make any parent cry. I think about this 12-year-old girl.
Oh my God.
Now,
yeah.
I know, depending on what I say, I'm probably going to get flagged for this, but I don't. Nothing new on my channel. But these 2 mutts, they lured her in under a bridge. They savagely beat her and raped her for 2 hours. 12 years old. Now, all rape, all murders are horrendous, right? I believe in the death penalty. I believe in, kill them slowly. As do I.
As do I.
But there's something, if it could be worse, there's something worse.
When it comes to a child and
not just that she's a child, but it was two of them.
Yes.
So number one, this poor kid was outnumbered.
Yep.
Number two, they're much stronger than she is. Yes, because men are stronger than women. Yep. And they're older. They're in their 20s. This girl's 12, bro. Ugh. 12. And I think about the fear in her eyes. Yeah. And you parents out there, you know what I'm talking about. When your kid gets scared for whatever reason. Yep. I think about before they dumped her in the river, they strangled her. And I can't stop thinking about this poor girl and how scared she must have been. 2 hours, bro. Yeah. 2 months for 2 hours. By the way, the reason I'm bringing that up now is because one of those mutts was wearing an ankle monitor.
Oh, my Lord. I didn't know that part.
Yeah. He cut it off and threw it in the river and with her. And that's supposed to be, and you'll hear from her mother later, Bret Baier plays it, but that's supposed to make things a little bit easier. That, oh, don't worry, they're going to have ankle monitors. Are you kidding me? They're committing rapes with ankle monitors on. It's unbelievably heartbreaking and infuriating. He'll get to her apology in a little bit. Here he's going to mention the Afghan refugees. What plane is that, Mike?
That looks like a C-17.
Mike is one of our great pilots in the aviation unit. So he knows all about planes and helicopters.
I try.
different licenses, right?
Different licenses, yes. Yeah.
All right. So you remember this, right? This was the withdrawal that Joe Biden says was a success when we left Afghanistan and 13 members got killed.
For all those Afghan refugees that Biden flew here after the Taliban took over, the ones heavily vetted at the violent airport, this bill fast tracks their amnesty. That's 80,000 Afghans ready to vote in a few years. And if you're...
Dude, another one of his bills, Trump limited the amount of Afghan refugees, and not just from Afghanistan, that area, but from other areas. I think Yemen was another one, Syria. He limited it to 15,000, a cap of 15,000 per year. Day one, Joe and Kamala got rid of that. But he only raised it to 62,500, right? The left they had a baby. They were losing their mind.
That drew a tremendous outcry from Capitol Hill. Statement after statement, dozens of statements from Democrats, including this from Pramila Jayapal, a House member who's the leader of the Progressive Caucus, saying, quote, "It is simply unacceptable and unconscionable that the Biden administration is not immediately repealing Donald Trump's harmful, xenophobic, and racist refugee cap that cruelly restricts refugee admissions to a historically low level." And Wolf, Democratic aides I was talking to about the House and the Senate said it wasn't just the public statements. There was also plenty of angry phone calls coming into the White House, both from congressional allies and also from immigration allies outside of the White House, making clear this was unacceptable.
So then, of course, Joe caves and he raises it to 125,000 per year, per fiscal year. So from 15,000 under Trump, they raised it to 125,000.
This executive order will position us to be able to raise the refugee admissions back up to 125,000 persons for the first full fiscal year of the Biden-Harris administration.
So now he's going to talk about how, even though the liberals are trying to get the citizens to vote and to have that ability, he talks about even if they're not voting, it still changes the boundaries and will still influence our election in favor of the Democrats because of the population.
Haitian, Cuban, Venezuelan, or Nicaraguan, you can cut to the front of the line. Biden just paroles you straight into the country. These new neighbors are great for Democrats. Even though illegals can't vote yet, the census counts them for redistricting. That means states with higher head counts, illegal or not, get more House seats and more electoral votes. In 2020, California, New York, New Jersey, Illinois, and Massachusetts all gained seats. 24 seats that were lost all came from states that voted for Trump in 2016.
Wow.
Now it gets better.
This is great, bro. In the last video I did on FEMA classifies people into two categories. One is the EFSP, that's the Program for Americans, and the other one now is the SSP. If you're an illegal, well, let me say it the other way. If you're an American, they will not give you money to go to a friend's or a relative house, even if it's down the block. They will not transport you out of state or even out of the city or the county. But if you're illegal, FEMA will not only drive you anywhere, they'll give you a plane ticket up to $700 to go any place you want. Only if you're illegal. And also, every illegal gets an attorney. From hurricane relief, they get an attorney. I don't know why, to process them, I guess. Who knows? But Jesse says the same thing in this bill. You're going to die when you find out how much money is given to illegals at the border.
It's crazy.
This bill, every migrant gets a lawyer. $400 million go to lawyers for illegals. There's also $250 million in migrant reparations.
Wow.
What are migrant reparations? Biden's going to take our tax dollars and pay the countries that the migrants claim they're too scared to live in.
Is that not sick?
So if Biden decides to deport a migrant, which he won't and which he hasn't ever, he's setting aside money to reintegrate the migrants back into their home countries. How does Ecuador go about reintegrating a man born and raised in Ecuador? They don't. They just steal our money and claim the reintegration is going muy bueno.
Exactly.
And keep sending more migrants to keep the migrant reparations. So we keep.
Now he's going to talk about the 5,000. The 5,000. I'll play this. It's actually more than 5,000 a day, and then we'll wrap up. Jesse, we'll talk about it.
Keep hearing about this 5,000 migrants a day, and the border automatically closes. Not true. If the Border Patrol averages 5,000 migrant encounters for a week straight, we're not talking about the gotaways, they'll say they'll close the border for a little while, but they don't want you to know about the loopholes. They actually never close the border. Migrants will still be processed into the country at ports of entry, meaning the cartels just funnel them to the ports of entry. What about the rest of the border? That's shut down, right? No. Migrants can still show up anywhere along the border, and as long as they claim it's an emergency, they have to be let in.
All right, so
believe this? I mean, it's just, it blows my mind. It blows my mind.
And there's more. There's so much more, and I'll get into it more when I make the video on the border. She says that she brings all this to the table and all this experience, but Arizona started to use shipping containers and place them along the border to at least keep them out, the part that they were exposed to in their state. And she and Joe sued them.
Arizona has started the auction of shipping containers once used as a makeshift border wall. You probably remember when former Governor Doug Ducey ordered the containers to be placed along the southern border just last year. Now, the federal government then sued Ducey's office for trespassing on federal land, and the containers were removed.
And then Texas decided to do the same thing. They took shipping containers, put it along their border, and she sued Texas. Yeah. So who's the governor of Texas? Abbott.
Abbott, yeah.
He took those big buoys. You see those big red balls? Yeah. He threw them in the Rio Grande to prevent them from crossing. And Joe and Kamala sued him for that too.
Justice Department has filed paperwork asking a judge to order Governor Abbott to remove that floating barrier from the Rio Grande. Also in that filing, a request that no further barriers be installed while the case proceeds. The DOJ sued Texas earlier this week. They say Abbott lacked federal authorization to put in the line to deter migrant crossings.
And then they they put razor wire up through the most active crossing areas. And they sued, Joe and Kamala sued Texas for that too, sent Border Patrol there to cut the wire to allow them in.
A legal battle at the southern border over razor wire installed by Texas officials to stop migrants. The Supreme Court tonight giving the Biden administration a win in its effort to remove that wire fencing. Laura Jarrett is here. Laura, what's the practical impact of this?
Lester, the upshot is that Border Patrol agents should be able to start cutting down or moving this razor wire that Texas officials had installed at the border, and they should be able to do it right away. Texas had originally installed the fencing to prevent illegal border crossings, arguing the Biden administration simply hasn't done enough to stop the number of migrants coming over from Mexico. This case, of course, part of a much larger fight between Texas and this White House over border security. Lester, tonight, the state saying in a statement this fight is not over.
And then in the end, they had to rely on a simple chain link fence to keep them out. And you see the National Guard standing there, not letting them in. But the Border Patrol, who work for Joe and Kamala, came to the scene.
Take a look at this video we shot yesterday where we're standing. This is the first time we had ever seen this. The Texas National Guard closed and locked a gate on this property. It's a major crossing area, and they blocked the illegal immigrants from being able to come into this property. It's private property. The owner allows the National Guard and Border Patrol to work here, but you can see illegal immigrants started showing up. They weren't let in. They expected to be let in, and they were surprised they couldn't get in. Here's what happened, though. Take a look at this video. Border Patrol showed up. A supervisor came with a key, opened up that gate, and let all of those illegal immigrants in. Symbolic of the way the state of Texas handles things versus the way the federal government handles things.
Can you imagine this? We both were in the NYPD. We both wore the uniform. Could you imagine being on a detail and having, like, you know, whoever the commander is on the detail there, or whatever, telling you to do something that goes against the grain of what your job description is? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's got to hurt, bro.
It's got to kill these guys. It's got to kill these guys. Now I got to go cut razor wire and watch these people flow through.
Yeah.
It's like, it's insanity. That's like watching, you know, and I see it all the time, like with these CVS stores, Walgreens, and these people shoplifting. All right. Yeah, it's penitent larceny, right? Whatever, depending on what they take. But you can't stop it. And you just got to let it happen. Like, that's bullshit.
It's got to drive you crazy.
It's got to drive these guys crazy.
He asks later, why do you think the Border Patrol supports Trump? And she said, they're frustrated, Brett. They're frustrated. And I was going to say, and you took the words right out of my mouth when we got to that part, it's just like us, bro. You're 100% right. They're frustrated because you're letting them walk right past them.
Right.
Right. It's like there were two cops, you know, some cops think differently. There were cops that would say, as long as I got my collar and I got my overtime, I got my car payment, I got this, I got that, I pay my bills, I don't care. Yeah. Well, then there were other cops that I guess you would say are a little bit more involved, let's say like a conditions team or a SNU team or whatever, where they were, or even detectives, right, that work a case for a while, and they get really into the case and they use all their resources and work very hard on it. And then they finally get the guy. Everything falls into place, right? They finally get the guy, which isn't always easy to do. And then you see the guy out the next day.
Oh, yeah.
It's disheartening, you know?
It is disheartening. And
so you're right.
Yeah, and I was a transit cop. When I first came on the job, I was a transit cop. If I was standing by the token booth and somebody jumped the turnstile, I'm not just going to let them walk by. You know, I'm going to look, first of all, I'm going to look like an idiot to everybody else standing there. But that's what I'm there for.
Right.
You know? And it's just, it baffles me that how everything is in reverse.
Upside down.
And it's upside down in this country.
Yeah. Dude, I didn't know you came on in transit?
Yeah, I came on in 91. I came on under the lottery. And I remember going down and you know, they had these long printout sheets with the holes on the side. The green bar paper, they call it. And they would have your name there and there was a T, a C, or an H. And I had a T next to mine.
Did you want it?
I didn't want it, but you know.
Nobody wanted it, but it ended up being a great detail, right?
It ended up being okay. I mean, you know, my dad took me down. He was on the job then. He was still a cop in 91. He still had some time on. And he walked in.
Where was he? He wasn't in transit, was he? No,
he was in the city. He at the time he was working in Brooklyn North Task Force. So they turned out of the 8-3. And he brought me down to get my selection of what agency I was going to, you know? And I came out, I got transit. He goes, so let's go back in. You know, he took me back in. And he talked to the guy. He's like, I can't. He goes, the only way you could do it. He goes, if he takes the rollover exam or waits. And I wanted to get hired, so I took the job. And yeah, it was a good experience. It was. I only did 18 months in transit, and then I lateral transferred. But it was a good experience.
Where to the 9-4, right?
Yeah, I worked in District 33, and then I lateral transferred, and I wound up in the 9-4. Yeah.
It's funny because when after we merged, everyone with a lot of transit cops, worked, came to city, and a lot of them were saying like transit was a great detail. It became like a really good detail. If you got into transit, now it's different. Of course, everything's different. But if you got into transit back then, it was supposed to be a home run. But when you're right, when you got the assignment, I was like, for me, it's city or nothing. But I was 21. I would have taken anything. I had no job, right?
Yeah, and it was all a glamorous thing. They were like, well, we got Bratton. Bratton had just taken over
the 9s, the 9mm.
Yeah, we had the 9mm. So like we were in the academy with all these guys with 38s, and we're walking around on Gun and Shield Day with 9mm, and these guys are coming up to us, and going, "Wow, man, you guys got 9." We have freaking. I had 45 rounds on my belt, and these guys still had speed loaders. So, it was a nice thing to join at the time. But I wanted to, I didn't want to be a transit cop. I wanted to be a city cop. I wanted to be on the street.
And then you went to aviation.
And then I went to aviation. Yeah.
Let me see if I can pull this back up. Oh, so now I got 2 open. Oh, God help me if I get to the wrong spot. Let me see this. We just finished Jesse Waters, right? So let's see where he goes.
Jocelyn Nungari, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley. They are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration.
Sat down.
Right now, what?
She's wishing she hadn't sat down for this interview.
Yeah.
Because he's bringing the facts and he's showing her evidence. And even the fact that he referenced what Bill Clinton said, which was a whole total Freudian slip there, but it was
You saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he said if she wasn't vetted, they were vetted, she would still be here.
You had a case in Georgia not very long ago, didn't you? They made an ad about a young woman who'd been killed by an immigrant. Yeah, well, if they'd all been properly vetted, that probably wouldn't have happened.
Clinton kind of threw her under the bus, and Biden supposedly lately, he's pissed, dude. If I was Joe, I hate Joe. Yeah. I hate Joe. I hate Hillary. I hated Obama.
Yep.
You know what though? They weren't stupid, right? Like I fear Kamala Harris not only because she's a far left radical, but she's dumb, and I don't have a problem saying it.
What else are you going to do to fix this problem with inflation?
All right, thank you. Well, let's start with this. Prices have gone up, and families and individuals are dealing with the realities of that bread costs more, that gas costs more. And we have to understand what that means. That's about the cost of living going up. Talking about the significance of the passage of time, right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs. And there is such great significance to the passage of time when we think about a day in the life of our children. I am Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she and her. I am a woman sitting at the table wearing a blue suit. We have to stay woke. Like, everybody needs to be woke. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke.
Yeah. What is on your heart to say to the American people as we have 47 days until November 5th?
We are an optimistic people. Americans are people who have dreams and ambitions and aspirations. We believe in what is possible. We believe in what can be. And we believe in fighting for that. Because the people before us understood that one of the greatest expressions for the love of our country, one of the greatest expressions of patriotism is to fight for the ideals of who we are, which includes freedom. Freedom to be who you are and just be, to love who you love openly and with pride. Freedom to just be.
People need to get vaccinated. That's the only way we're gonna cut this thing off. Nobody likes wearing a mask. Get vaccinated.
So you don't have to wear a mask if you're vaccinated, says the vaccinated lady who's wearing a mask.
Don't shoot me for saying this, but if it was, gun to my head, if I had to choose between Hillary Clinton and her, I would pick Hillary. Because
yeah, oh no, me too, 100%.
Yeah, she's corrupt and she's a liar, but she's not stupid.
And she's not going to let these far left freaking maniacs control her presidency. This one right here is so stupid that you don't know what's going to be in her administration and how far it's going to go. Because Biden was just
so far left, bro.
Yeah, he was incoherent, but she's just dumb,
Yeah, same thing with Joe, bro. If you asked me to describe Joe Biden, I would say he's an old, corrupt, disgusting, perverted, pathological liar.
Yeah.
But he's not stupid. Like her intelligence is like right up there with AOC. Like she's really, she lacks intelligence, bro. And that's what scares me more than anything.
Yeah.
Because even the most, like, I'll give you a name. You're going to think I'm crazy, but just from a position of strength. And I would never want her to be president because she would make things worse than they are now. Nancy Pelosi, an evil, conniving, corrupt person, but intelligence and strength. Because my wife asked me, she says, what woman do you think, do you think people would ever vote for a woman president? And a lot of people are saying, it's just a job that requires a man because even if you need to at least project strength,
Yeah.
But I would say Nancy Pelosi could probably do it. She would ruin the country, but from a position of strength and intelligence, like Kamala's an idiot, bro. I don't want to.
She can't put together any valid type of subject matter, or she can't answer a question. She remembers cliches, so that's how she answers everything. You know.
She's full of talking points. Your chair's making that noise again, bro. The boop, boop,
sorry.
boop. Is that the chair?
Yeah, it's the chair.
Mine's doing it too. So, but anyway.
To release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe
Bret,
those families an apology?
Let me just.
So hold on. Before she says this, I just want to point out what Bret asked great questions. I think it was a terrible interview, but it was because of her. Bret is saying before Trump got involved, before the Republicans took the House in 22, before anything happened, before her bill, HR 1177, didn't even make it out of the House. It was an executive order done by Joe and Kamala. It had nothing. Let's pretend Congress is out of the room. They have nothing to do with this. It was an executive decision by Kamala and Joe to pass these orders like he passed 90, but like the Remain in Mexico policy. And Bret is saying it was those orders specifically. It had nothing to do with the broken immigration system and Trump killing the bill. It was that her actions that led to this woman's death. And now she's gonna give not really an apology.
First of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that. There is no question about that. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred. So that is true. It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock, trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Bret.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let one of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungare's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days.
Thank you.
Human right now that he's presenting.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I'm so sorry for her loss. Sincerely.
Dude, you say I'm sorry for your loss when you find out that someone in your family passes away, or you lose your dog, or someone you know died. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. That is very different than her acknowledging that she was responsible for this loss, for her death.
Yep.
Her policies caused it. Anyone could say, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And she says later, I did. I said I was sorry. Did you ever see the Seinfeld episode where George was talking to, I think it was James Spader, and he's like, George, listen, I was thinking a lot, and you're right. I do owe you an apology. And George is like, thank you. He goes, so I'm glad we cleared this up. And then George is like, you never really apologized. I need an official, I'm sorry.
I've thought it over, and, you know, my apology at the coffee shop was sarcastic and rude, and you deserve much better.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I get a triple Minuteman mint?
Waffle or sugar cone?
Excuse me, Jason. I don't want to get into a big thing here, but I'm not sure if technically what you just said was actually an apology.
That's exactly what she's doing here. She says it again. I feel terrible. But she's not accepting responsibility. She's not acknowledging the fact that it was her policy that led to this poor little girl.
It's just a nicety. That's all it is. It's a nicety. You know?
Terrible, bro. Terrible.
Really. But let's talk about what is happening right now with an individual who does not want to participate in solutions.
Stop it right there. What individual does not want to participate in solutions? Who is she? Is she talking about Trump? Because
she's saying that Trump put, what does she like to say? Run on a problem instead of finding a solution. Because he asked them, don't sign off on this stupid bill. This bill is ridiculous. It's not going to help us.
That's unbelievable.
You're letting 5 million people in a day, 5,000 people in a day.
Yeah.
And all those other things Jesse Waters just mentioned. We knew this was the plan, bro. We knew that the whole reason why they brought this bill in February of 24 was because Biden was losing on border security when it came to the polls. And they said, let's just put something out there, even if it doesn't get passed. They didn't expect it to get passed.
Yeah.
But they did it so they can then pin everything on this and say, we tried. But it's forgetting so many things. Like we talked about, the bill sucks, but not just that. From January of 21 until February of 24, she did nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. Right?
Yeah. If you remember, she was hidden out for, she was hiding for 3 years. They would never put her out there publicly. You kind of almost forgot who the vice president was for a while because it was intentional, and then all of a sudden now they bring her to the forefront and she's this superstar. So
I know, dude, isn't it crazy? She was polling in the 20s.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone said it can't be Kamala because Joe's in the 30s and she's not much better. Well, she's actually worse on some issues. It can't be Kamala. They have to get Michelle Obama. And once they said it was Kamala Harris, all of a sudden her poll numbers were in the 50s again.
Yeah.
She surpassed Joe.
Well, because all the pollsters just, they're all shills for the Democrats. So
yeah, and the corrupt media props her up, bro.
Exactly. So I'm telling you, there's the internal polling, they know what's going on.
Yeah.
They know what's going on.
That's why she's on Bret Baier.
Yes.
Do you think she's going to do Joe Rogan?
No, absolutely not. She can't. Joe Rogan interviews are sometimes 2 and 3 hours.
I know.
Sometimes 4.
But she did. Charlemagne, right? How long was Charlemagne?
I don't know. I don't tune into that, and I wouldn't watch it. Only
it's like an hour, I think.
Yeah, but
Joe Rogan said, I don't want to have Trump on because I don't want to help him. So I don't know if he would be. Yeah. Like, he's not a real journalist, but I don't know if.
It's just that he has the big viewership, and I think with Trump, I don't know if you saw this morning on Fox, Tyrese that's on Gutfeld.
Yeah.
He did a little interview with Trump, and I just watched a little clip of it this morning. And it was really good. It was really good because he apologized to Trump, saying that, I kind of didn't agree with how you fight. I didn't agree how you fight. He goes, after you came off the Gutfeld show, backstage, I was expecting you to run off like every other politician does, and any other person that I bodyguarded, because apparently he was a bodyguard. He goes, but you hung around and you spoke with my 10-year-old daughter for 20 minutes about horses and about, how, and anybody would have thought that you were her grandfather. He goes, and that at that moment, he says, that's how I know you're a good person, And then he started to talk about how Trump, chartered a 727 back in the 90s to rescue Nelson Mandela and his family. This is stuff that nobody speaks about. So that was a nice little thing that I saw this morning. If you get a chance to look at it, he's that big guy, the Tyrese guy. He's the
wrestler, right?
Yeah, and it was a really, really personal interview and a statement by him about Trump's, humanity. You know what I mean?
I actually owe you an apology before we start. I've been very critical about how you fight all through the campaigns. I voted for you because I like policy. Right. I didn't know you as a man. And I think when you don't understand what a man fights for, you can get lost, especially with all the noise we're seeing from fake news, et cetera, created these pictures from you.
There is noise.
So Gutfeld show's over. Cameras are off. We go backstage, and I expected you to be like every politician or anybody celebrity I've bodyguarded for, and you met my family. And you talked to my daughter. Mm-hmm. My daughter is 10 years old. Her name is Georgie. You guys talked for 20 minutes. If nobody knew, you could have been her grandfather. And you were talking about her horses and her dreams. And I was sitting there and I was like, I have been so wrong about this man because I never understood why you fight the way you fight. You're a family man.
I am. Well,
you're a father.
And your daughter's a gorgeous, really, and your wife, the whole thing. I mean, you have got some setup. I'll tell you. But your family's great and you're great and you've really done something and you've captured a certain spirit.
Why do we not hear more about Donald Trump, the father, the grandfather? And I did a deep dive. There are some things you have done that when they say those horrible things like he's Hitler, he's a racist, did they not forget in 1991 what you did with Nelson Mandela? Yeah. Would you care to share that? Because I would love to hear that.
I never talk about it.
No, you do not. And I know why, because you're a man.
Yeah. I mean, I just have great relationships with a lot of people. People say that, a little bit like you do. I don't think it's a narrative the press likes. Maybe it's not even a narrative that I should have. We have to protect our country, and maybe we should let the other side. I don't even call them the enemy. I think we have more of an enemy from within than we do from outside. If you have a smart president, they talk about China and Russia and everything else. If you have a smart president, they're not going to be the problem. We have a bigger problem from within, and they hate it. I noticed today they were saying, he said the enemy from within. Of course, it's Adam Schiff. These are bad people. These are sick people and bad people, and it's true. But I think it's a narrative that they don't like, frankly. I think the fake news, a term I think I came up with. I'm very proud.
Oh, you did. You coined it.
It's not tough.
You should probably trademarked it. But, I'm not going to
I should trade.
I'm not going to give you business tips.
But, it's funny because it's a great term, but it's actually not strong enough because it's beyond fake. It's really bad.
Nelson Mandela and 80 of his constituents were trying to come to the United States.
Yeah.
The United States government wasn't helping him. No one was helping him. You chartered a 727 plane for their entire trip.
Yeah.
How is somebody, and it's crazy because you can talk about anything, and why is it hard for you to talk about the things you've done? It runs in your family. Your father helped build a synagogue. I mean, why do we not know those things?
It's something that I've never, I love doing it. I don't need praise for it. I don't, we all like a certain level of praise, but I've never, I just like helping people.
I have hundreds hundreds of employees who have said things like, you've paid medical bills, you paid mortgages, rents, you've helped get family members. There's one story in here where a brother came in with a business plan, nobody would hear him. You gave him 10 minutes, you shook his hand and you cut him a check. Yeah. Why is it so hard for you and even your team? I'm a little upset. These are things that I think the American people need to know. And I get it, you're humble because you're a father first.
Yeah.
He really was everybody's best friend, bro, until he decided to run as a Republican.
He was, yeah.
So, all right, let's see.
In all fairness, I told you, I feel awful for what she and her family have experienced.
That right
During
there.
that time, you
She
said
was pissed.
repeatedly
Get it
that
out of the way.
border
She's
was
basically
secure.
saying,
When in your
shut up, we're done with that, let's move on.
Right.
You know, there's no empathy, there's no sympathy, there's nothing. There's nothing. She just is saying it for posterity and just saying, I said that. Let's move on. You know?
Right. Like, you know what's funny, bro? It's so funny that you said that because someone was interviewing Biden a few days after the Afghan withdrawal. And they mentioned that to Joe, and Joe goes, that was 4 or 5 days ago.
Still a lot of pandemonium outside the airport.
Well, there is, but look, but no one's being killed right now. God forgive me if I'm wrong about that, but no one's being killed right now. We got 1,000, somewhere 1,200 out yesterday, a couple thousand a day, and it's increasing. We're going to get those people out.
But we've all seen the pictures. We've seen those hundreds of people packed into a C-17. We've seen Afghans falling.
That was 4 days ago, 5 days ago.
What did you think when you first saw those pictures?
Glenn Beck played the clip and he said, oh, I'm sorry, we can't bring up stuff from 5 days ago. You're the party that's constantly bringing up slavery.
Yeah, right. That's right.
Hundreds of years ago.
Perfect.
But we can't talk about what happened 4 or 5 days ago. But you're right. It's like, I already addressed that.
Yeah.
Let's move
and that's
on.
what she wanted to move on. She just was, she wanted to fill the box, check the box, and move on.
Yeah. But again, she doesn't really say, you know, she is deeply sorry, but it's different. It's different than saying, she could say something like, listen, I didn't agree with everything that Joe did. And obviously we got some things wrong.
Yes.
And I'm really sorry that
show some humility.
Some of the policies put in place were meant to help migrants. Unfortunately, there are consequences, and you know the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yes.
And this is really sorry if that was a result of that.
Yep.
You know, but she's like, I'm sorry. It's like, you know, I'm sorry you like everything you say at a wake or a funeral. I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry for the killer who put the person in the casket needs to do more than just say, oh, I'm sorry for your loss. It is a direct result of her policies, and that's what she doesn't acknowledge.
Exactly.
Mind, did it start becoming a crisis?
Oh, wait.
I think we've had a broken immigration system transcend.
So I was talking over it. He's saying, when did the border first become, in your mind, an issue? Yeah. And now she's going to say, oh, we've had a problem for a long time.
By the way, Donald Trump's administration, even before. Let's all be honest about that. I have no pride in saying that this is a perfect immigration system. I've been clear, I think we all are.
Yeah, Brett.
That it needs to be fixed.
That's funny, bro.
In her seat like that,
yeah.
She kind of resits.
You got to see later when she starts yelling. And she starts to, dude, it's funny that she's saying there's no issue, that the border is an issue and immigration is an issue. She doesn't really say, we acknowledge the border is a problem. She acknowledges that immigration is a problem, again, because she wants amnesty. That's her biggest problem, that they're not legalized. But it's funny that now she could say, oh, this has been an issue for the last 10 years.
Right.
Meanwhile, she's been telling us forever that the border is secure and there's nothing to worry about. I want to play this montage.
Yeah.
I queued up. Let me see if I have it. Where all they do is say, no, the border's secure. The border's secure.
We have a secure border.
Do you continue to maintain that the border is secure?
Yes, and we are working day in and day out to enhance its security. It is my testimony that the border is secure, and we are working every day, day and night, to increase its security.
The border is secure.
Yeah.
The border, we are working to make the border
more secure.
We have cameras today in Texas that are showing humongous groups of dozens or hundreds of migrants walking right into the country. So I'm curious what you meant last week when you said the border is closed.
What I meant is precisely that. The border is closed.
Immigration is tough. It has always been because on one hand, I think we're naturally people that wants to help others. At the same time, we're a nation state. We have borders. The idea that we could.
Yeah. You know what's pissing me off more about this whole thing was that little clip is watching the people wear the masks. That's a whole other podcast. We can go down that rabbit hole. But I'm infuriated when I look back and I see what this country, what this world was subject to. Because
only certain people had to wear a mask,
right,
Mike.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Like Nancy Pelosi at weddings, and
the peasants had to wear masks.
Tlaib at weddings, and Chuck Schumer at his weddings. None of them had to wear AOC at the Met. Right,
Gavin Newsom.
Gavin Newsom at the French Laundry when he went out to eat. Mayor Bowser from Washington D.C.
Right, rules for thee, not for me. Right, so
of all the time, dude.
They're all fucking tyrants. They're tyrants.
And the kids, bro, the kids that they made wear masks. It was Let me tell you, bro. When I used to be in construction and I needed to wear a mask, let's say you're cutting stone or you're dealing with fiberglass insulation, I couldn't wear it.
Yeah,
even though I needed to, and I would force myself to do it, but I'm constantly taking breaks, taking it off, leaving the room. I can't. I can't stand it.
I remember 9/11 when I got down to the pile. They handed me these masks, and I'm putting them on. Put it on for about 2 minutes. I can't wear this.
Exactly.
I couldn't wear that.
And then it got more. It got like.
Well, this one had the breathers and everything. And I was like, I can't wear this.
And then, exactly. And now they expect children 2 and 3 years old. Let's say 3 years old. To wear a mask for 8 hours.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about this because that's a big topic for me that bothers me a lot. The whole vaccine thing, the whole COVID thing, everything. And we definitely we're going off tangent here, but
we always do, dude. I did. I think part 2 of that video of her lies talked about COVID because she actually had the nerve in the debate with Trump to say that. You're soft. She told Trump, "You're soft on China," and then I got into COVID and all the stuff, dude. Not just the mask wearing and the vaccine. She weakened our military by forcing military members to lose their job because they wouldn't get the shot. Now I'm gonna get banned now because I said the words I'm not supposed to. But first responders, bro, she did it to cops and firemen.
As many as 1 in 3 emergency responders in some cities like Chicago, Los Angeles, right here in Baltimore, are refusing to comply with city vaccine mandates. I'm wondering where you stand on that. Should police officers, emergency responders, be mandated to get vaccines? And if not, should they be stay at home or let go?
Yes and yes. 2 things that concern me. One are those who just try to make this a political issue. Freedom. I have the freedom to kill you with my COVID. No, I mean, come on. Freedom.
Hospital workers too, bro. Doctors and nurses and even surgeons lost their job because of her policies. It had nothing to do with Trump. It's her policies.
Those frontline workers, like her and so many others, risked their own lives, and they knew they were, for the sake of taking care of, in many cases, perfect strangers. I do believe in moments of crisis, there are revelations and an unveiling of the heroes walking among us. And I would say among the heroes walking among us as we live on earth right now, the frontline workers are front and center.
Let me see if I can find where I was. It was Mayorkas, right?
Yeah.
We are working to make the border more secure.
We have cameras today in Texas that are showing humongous groups of dozens or hundreds of migrants walking right into the country. So I'm curious what you meant last week when you said the border is closed.
The board. What I meant is precisely that. The border is closed.
Immigration's tough. It has always been because on one hand, I think we're naturally a people that wants to help others. At the same time, we're a nation state. We have borders. The idea that we can just have open borders is something that, as a practical matter, is unsustainable. Does President Biden agree with President Obama that open borders is unsustainable?
We don't have open borders. So yes, he agrees. Well, there certainly is not an open border. We are continuing to employ our immigration proceedings and process and restrictions at the border.
We have a secure border in that is a priority for any nation, including ours and our administration. We have...
I don't even know how she answers that. We have a secure border in that it's a priority. What does that mean? Like,
this is how she speaks in tongue. I don't know what the hell but she can't put together a sentence that makes any sense.
Yeah, she can't just say we have a secure border or we don't have a secure border and it needs help. She has this. Another thing she says all the time is, I think that's a conversation we should have. Or, you know, it's just like she's in a way.
She'll start with look.
Yeah. Or
because then she buys time to think about stuff.
First of all, dude, it reminds me when we used to stop people that we knew were perps, right? Where they were just about to get arrested because we had enough on them. They'd come out of a building. We'd say, "Where do you live?" They would repeat the question. Where do I live?
Yeah. Once they repeat the question, you know they're lying.
You're thinking. You're thinking.
That's it.
How old are you? And then he gives you a number. Yeah. What's your date of birth? Now he's got to do the math and be like, shit, I told him, you know, or what apartment are you coming from?
Yeah.
It's just to stall it's
a tactic, right? Exactly. And you know, it's funny. She didn't say we're unburdened by what has been burdened or burdened by one. She actually did in that whole interview. If there was like a bingo card, somebody would have won because she said burdened. She did. She did. She did. She didn't say unburdened by what has been, but she said burdened. And it seems like she's only got this like bag of words that she uses and pulls them out and puts them together. Yeah. It's
terrible, bro.
Hilarious.
Now this should pick up, I hope.
We need more. I was just down at the border talking with border agents.
She waited 3.5 years to go to the border.
I know. And she was the border czar.
Yes. And when Lester Holt asked her, why haven't you been to the border? She goes, and you haven't been to the border, and I haven't been to Europe.
Oh my God, I remember that. Yeah.
Americans don't see a lot of that on a daily basis. What they do see at their own border, children being lowered over fences, children coming in with, phone numbers stenciled on their hand.
Yeah.
And so the question has come up, and you heard it here, and you'll hear it again, I'm sure. It's why not visit the border? Why not see what Americans are seeing in this crisis?
Well, we are going to the border. We have to deal with what's happening at the border. There's no question about that.
There's one other topic I wanted to talk to you about. But let me just quickly put a button.
Okay.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
I'm here in Guatemala today. At some point, we are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I don't understand the point that you're making.
And now she's saying, I was just at the border. What were you doing for 3.5 years?
Right.
And you know what else she loves to say, Mike? I was only in charge of the root causes. Okay. Did it work? Because she likes to say, she says, and those areas that I was in charge of actually saw a decrease in crossings from those particular areas. Okay. So then if that worked, why didn't you do it for the other countries?
Yeah.
Dude, I cannot believe that Trump that this race is so close. I feel like he should be leading her by like 15 points.
Well, that's another thing that I always like to talk about. And I think we spoke about it in the last time we were on, are these races that are called with separated by 10,000 votes. In an electorate that has over 4 million people. It's improbable. I'd love to bring like mathematicians in and say, what's the probability of of, an electorate of 10 million people, well, let's say that 10 million people do vote, that it's only separated by, 0.1% or 0.2%. It's improbable. Right. Look at when Governor DeSantis won.
Yeah, you said that. That's right.
Yep.
That was more of an accurate representation.
That's going to be that would be representative of what a normal election would look like, 9 to 11%, and I think in his case was 13%. But that's what we're looking at here. There's no single digit freaking votes. I mean, come on.
Point, he's leading by 0.2 of 1 point.
Come on,
in some areas.
It's improbable.
Do you think that that it's still Trump underreported in the polls? That the polls are
100% Trump underreported and she's overreported. But I think polls have lost their luster since 2016.
Yeah. But here's the thing, though, dude. If let's say they underreport Trump, let's say by 5 or 6 points. So instead of being tied, he's up by 6. He should be up by like 15.
He should be. And right now, right before we went on, I took a glance over at Rasmussen, and they had all the swing state polls. And it was Arizona, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, and maybe one more. But in every one of those states, he's +1 or +1.2 or just under 1%. That's well within the margin of error. And so if he's +1, then he's killing it. He's killing it. You know what I'm saying?
But I still feel that he should be like, I don't think he should. I would be surprised. I don't think he's going to win Minnesota simply because that's where the idiot is from.
Yeah. Well, didn't Walter Mondale win that only state when he ran against Reagan in '84?
Yeah, he lost every state except one, right?
Every state. I think it was Minnesota was the only one that he won. But I think that that might have been his home state. But I don't think Trump's going to do. I don't think Trump's going to win Minnesota. Let me just preface this whole election conversation with, if it was an honest, election with integrity. We speak about this stuff, and it's very hard to speak to people because there's always this factor of fraud, and we don't know what it is. We don't know the severity of it. It's very severe, but if there was any type of integrity, Trump would be blowing it out of the water. Blowing it out of the water, and I'm talking 15%. I'm really believing that.
Well, the betting market's got him up big, and that other website 538's got him up.
Yeah, so, and Nate Silver, who is normally kind of like goes towards the he left. Always goes towards the left. And all of these, there's that one dude that predicts. He's predicted like 30 of the last, or whatever, like 10 of the last 12 elections. And he's saying Trump he's not going to win. And I'm
saying Trump's not going to win.
He says Trump's not going to win. Yeah, he doesn't hold a certain.
Well, he might not if they get away with the shit they got away with last time. That's the thing, bro.
Well, one of the other things I wanted Bret Baier to ask her, which is asked to Trump on every single interview, is, would you accept the outcome of the election? And I was hoping he didn't even get past question 3, but there's a lot of talk right now that if Trump wins it, they're not going to certify the election. And Jamie Raskin has said this. There's a couple of clips out there.
Last night, I was most worried about the Supreme Court's prospective imminent abdication of its very clear duty to disqualify Donald Trump from the ballot under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, and what that might mean if their decision says that it's really up to Congress on January 5th or January 6th, 2025, to disqualify him at the counting of the Electoral College votes, which really could lead to something akin to civil war. So it's going to be up to us on January 6, 2025 to tell the rampaging Trump mobs that he's disqualified.
I don't think they would do that.
Well, yeah, and they know that the right, let's call it the right instead of the left, are not going to come out in droves and start rioting and burning down cities. So they got that on their side,
Yeah. What's his name? Who's James Comey said that they were asking him, do do you think that would happen? And he goes, no, I think that basically he said that they learned their lesson.
I'm not worried about an uprising of violence on Donald Trump's behalf. I don't think you've seen the crowds anywhere he's gone. I think a message was sent after January 6th that your life will be ruined.
What do you mean, January 6th? You talking about?
Yeah. Well, not just January 6th, but I mean, they got, people that were walking around taking selfies, people in their 70s.
Yeah.
They're in jail. Dude, they're not just in jail. Some of them are in jail awaiting trial for years. Some of them are in solitary confinement.
I think on day one, Trump needs to release every single person who was persecuted for January 6th.
I think it's got to be on a case-by-case basis.
Well, with the exception, and I'm not going to say a blanket.
Cop, then
yeah, you got to go through each individual case. But like you said, like the cases like that, somebody's cell phone pinged and you were in the plaza on January 6th. You know what I mean?
Or Bank of America gave their records over to the FBI that said this person was there. They made a withdrawal.
Yeah, What if I was just in DC for a work conference or something that happened to take place while I was there, and now I'm going to get implicated in this. So there's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of that going on. And
but they forget like what was allowed to happen with BLM and Antifa. It's so crazy how the Democrats will look right at you and say, no one is above the law. And there's case after case where people choose the right party. They're part of the Democrats' establishment, and they get away with everything. There was a case where I did a short on it where a guy took an axe and tried to break in to a Republican's office, shattered the whole glass with an axe, went after the Republican. And not only were the charges dropped, he was an Antifa member, and he said, I'll always go after fascists and attack those who support Trump. The FBI not only dropped the charges, but they returned the guy's axe.
Paul Hodgkins from Florida, he came to the Capitol on January 6th, attended the rally near the White House, and then marched up to the Capitol. Now, he did not engage in any violent behavior, the government says. He didn't damage any property. But Judge Randolph Moss sentenced Hodgkins to 8 months in prison and 2 years supervised release.
8 months in jail for trespass and for being a Trump supporter.
The feds just went particularly easy on a vandal with an axe who smashed into a U.S. senator's office.
Even though federal sentencing guidelines suggested maybe 10 to 16 months in prison, Starks was only given probation and a fine of about $2,800. Now, here's the kicker. Take a look at this. The FBI even returned the axe back to Starks. Starks had previously posted on social media that he was a member of Antifa and that he will, quote, always attack fascists.
No one is above the law. No one.
And then you get people that say, no one's above the law. No one's above the law. Meanwhile, there's 50 examples like that where nobody gets prosecuted.
By the way, where is Antifa? Are we going to see them again on November 6th? I don't know.
Listen, and that's another thing.
On another album,
she's going to talk about the enemy within. Trump's talking about election day.
Yes.
Chaos.
Yeah.
She pulls it out of context, of course, when he talks about the enemy within and using the military. We'll play it. We'll get to it.
Yep.
It stems from an interview with Maria Bartiromo.
And they will tell you, and I'm sure I know you investigate and you are a serious journalist. They will tell you, we need more judges. We need to process those cases faster. We need the support for those cases that should be prosecuted. They need more resources, and Congress ultimately is the only place that's going to get fixed, Brett.
Well, but what he's trying to tell her is you did these executive orders that had nothing to do with Congress.
Yep.
It was you and Joe that did this.
That's how this system works.
That's the premise of this question. There were 90-plus executive orders that were rescinded in the first days. Many of those were Trump border policies. I'm not going to stay here because there's other things to talk about, but you frequently talk to the Border Patrol Union for support of that bipartisan bill, and they did. They supported it. But they also just endorsed Donald Trump and said, you've been, quote, a failure with border security. Why do you think they said that?
I think they're frustrated, and I get it. They want support. They want support, and that's what that border security bill would have done. These guys down at the border, these men and women, they're working hard. They're working around the clock. I get it.
I get it.
There's a lot of people that look back at what you said in 2019 when you first ran for president. And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
If that's the case, you chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
We are very clear, and I'm very clear, as is Tim Walz, that we must support and enforce federal law, and that is exactly what we will do.
Really?
So decriminalizing border crossings, like you said in 2019.
I do not believe in decriminalizing border crossings, and I've not done that as vice president. I will not do that as president.
Dude, we got to talk about that, bro. She's not going to decriminalize it? I'm going to play you a short, bro. She has said over and over and over again that someone who simply crosses the border is not a criminal.
Yeah.
They're not a criminal.
Yep.
And here she's saying, really saying just what she needs to say to get elected. Watch the short I made. It'll make you mad.
It is wrong to somehow suggest that an undocumented immigrant is a criminal. Being an undocumented immigrant is not a crime. An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal. 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 We're not going to treat people who are undocumented and cross the border as criminal. That's correct. An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal.
You're not a criminal simply for coming across the border.
Right.
And here she's saying, "Oh no, you are."
Would you be treated criminally if you went across any of the other countries? And let's talk about South America. Let's say if I crossed into Mexico, or if I crossed into Venezuela, or if I crossed, I don't know, anywhere.
Dude, you're not. You're going to be detained. You probably won't come back.
You're right. You're right.
It's you know what else? Excuse me. You know what else I find funny, bro? All of these liberals, they say, "Oh, she said it. She said it over and over." There's a montage of her saying that Trump's wall is simply nothing more than a vanity project. And they all say that walls are racist and it's not who we are and they're not needed and it's a waste of money. That's the best one, Mike.
Yeah.
It's a waste of money, like Democrats suddenly care so much about spending money. But all of them go home to their house and they lock their doors at night.
Yep.
Right? They have a house.
Gated houses, too.
Gated house in a gated community. They put Joe Biden spent $500,000 putting a wall up around his beach house.
Yep.
Right? They all claim that walls are racist, but they all go home and they lock their doors, they lock their windows behind their gated community, as you say, the safety of the gated community. But they tell everyone else that even thinks about it that, oh, that's racist, that's bigoted. How could you think that? It's just like they really are I say that the Democrats are evil and the Republicans are cowards. I'm going to change that to the Republicans are cowards and the Democrats are the party of hypocrites because they really are. The hypocrisy is unbelievable, bro. But yeah, there she was saying that, no, simply crossing the border does not make you a criminal. And here she's like, oh, absolutely. I'm not going to decriminalize that. That's a serious issue. It's crazy.
That you've had.
No, but let's be very clear. I'm the only person who's running for president who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations from this.
How many have you prosecuted as vice president, Kamala?
Right.
How many? None. Zero.
Sinaloa cartel, to the Guadalajara cartel, to people who have trafficked in guns, drugs, and human beings. I have spent a significant part of my career going after people who present a threat to the safety of the American people and cross our border with the intent of doing us harm and cross our border illegally. And I will do that work as vice president. I take that work quite seriously.
Oh, yeah.
This is a time when voters, especially here in Pennsylvania, are inundated with commercials and ads. They just want it to stop because it's every commercial. But many of them add noise, but a few of them seem to break through. This particular one from the Trump campaign has gotten a lot of attention.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery. For prisoners. For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
Hold on, I want to play you that actual. It's a longer clip. It's like 30 seconds. Because she talks about how she fought to change the law.
When I was Attorney General, I learned that the California Department of Corrections, that they were standing in the way of surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. And there was a specific case.
You noticed who's interviewing her, right?
Case, yeah. I worked behind the scenes to not only make sure that that transgender woman got the services she was deserving.
Dude, did you hear that? Listen.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. And there was a specific case. And when I learned about the case, I worked behind the scenes to not only make sure that that transgender woman got the services she was deserving. So it wasn't only about that case. I made sure that they changed the policy in the state of California so that every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access to the medical care that they desired and need.
So, dude, she says, I follow the law. I follow the law. It's a lot different because the law was that, no, we're not paying for transgender surgeries of inmates, especially with taxpayer money. Right. That was the law. But she, as Attorney General, worked to change the law. Because you're going to hear her again say, we follow the law, we follow the law. Trump did too. There's a big difference. She changed the law.
Yeah.
Are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law. And it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed.
That's a lie.
You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition surgeries
you know what? You got to take responsible for what happened
presidency.
in your administration.
Yeah, no.
You love that, right? You got to take responsibility.
What about you?
Yeah. But, dude, that's the thing.
She's stones in glass houses.
Exactly. But that's the thing. She's saying, like, Trump followed the law. Trump fought that every year of his administration, and he lost.
Right.
He was fighting that law because she passed this and she got the law changed in California, and then other states followed. And Trump didn't want this to happen. So he fought it. And then nobody got the surgery because it was being reviewed. They were suing to stop this. But she's the one that changed the law to allow it to happen. So now when she's saying, I follow the law, you're going to follow the law that you changed, that you helped pass. That's why I rewound that part, because she said, I worked behind the scenes to make this policy to change this policy so that people can get this surgery. And then she's like, I'm just going to follow the law. I'm going to follow the law.
Yeah.
Disgusting. I'm only halfway through, bro. I got to stop talking so much. This interview is probably another 15 minutes.
Surgeries happened in this presidency.
It's in black and white.
Would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassessment
I will
surgeries?
follow the law, just as I think
say
Donald Trump would say he did.
That's not an answer.
As president.
Like I said, I think it's he spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear in the voters because he actually has no plan.
Here we go.
In this election that is about focusing on the needs of the American people.
Here we go.
Whereas, at $20 million on that ad.
Who cares?
On an issue that, as it relates to the biggest issues that affect the American people, it's really quite remote.
Dude, it's not remote, bro. She has never been asked and never had to answer, neither did Walz, for not only transgender ideology, but the stealing of and the infiltration of real men in women's sports, bro.
Oh, yeah.
These women are getting beaten by mailboxes pretending to be female.
Yeah.
They're getting their teeth knocked out on the volleyball court. They're getting concussions in basketball games. They work so hard to allow all of this stuff for females only, and then they let the men back in.
It's just insanity.
To destroy. So she's saying, like, this is a very small issue. It's not remote. A lot of people think that this is a very important issue. And of course, she was never asked that in any interview other than Bret Baier. You think he's asking good questions, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think she's not answering.
Yeah. No, I think so. And I think he might have identified the least amount of questions she's been asked, regarding policy and brought them here into this interview. I hope. I mean, that seems that way,
And again, his policy was no different. Look at where we are, though.
They say
on plans for the American
we'll
people, I'm offering a plan to deal with affordable housing. I'm offering a plan to deal with what we need to do to strengthen small businesses, which are the backbone of America's economy. I am offering a plan that is about taking care of young parents and giving them the support they need. My plans for the economy will strengthen the economy, as have been reviewed by 16 Nobel laureates, Goldman Sachs, Moody's, and recently the Wall Street Journal, which have all studied our plans and have indicated my plans for our economy would strengthen our economy, his would make them weaker, would ignite inflation and invite a recession by the middle of next year.
Ignite inflation.
Why do you think more people say they trust him on the economy than they trust you?
I think that when you look at an analysis of our plans for what we would do as president of the United States.
Did you hear how she stalls, bro?
Yeah.
What would we do in terms of president of the...
Been clear to those who study and understand how economic policy works that moving forward, because I do believe the American people are ready to turn the page on the divisiveness
I hate
and
that line.
the type.
Isn't that funny, bro? She uses it all the time.
Turn the page.
Turn the page. He says it to her, though.
Yep.
He says, you've been in...
that was a great soundbite when he said that. He goes, but you're turning the page on... I forgot how he said it, but
you've been in office.
You've been in office for the last 3.5 years. So what are we turning the page on?
The rhetoric that has come out of Donald Trump, people are ready to chart a new way forward, and they want a president who has a plan for the future and a plan that is sound and will strengthen our country. My plan for the economy does exactly that. His plan would be, again, to give tax cuts to billionaires and the biggest corporations in our country and blow up our deficit.
It's interesting.
Dude.
Yeah, tax cuts.
I'm not going to waste too much time here, but I'm going to put a link up. I hope people click on it. Those two things in the Kamala Debate Lies series in part 1, she said the same thing. He gave a tax cut to billionaires and he added to the deficit. If you look at the Trump tax cuts, the people that made over $1 million did get a tax benefit of like 3.5%. So you say, wow, so Trump really did give a tax break to millionaires. Mm-hmm. But the people that made $40,000 to $50,000, middle class workers, they had a tax benefit that was more than 18%. So the middle class taxpayer got a benefit that was 6 times greater than those making more than $1 million. She talks about the deficit. I swear to you, bro, this woman is clueless. Trump added in his 4 years of office $5.56 trillion to the deficit. She and Joe, as of when I made the video 2 months ago or about a month ago, She and Joe have already added $7.75 trillion to the debt.
And it's not over yet. And it's not over yet.
Well, the fiscal year ends in October, so it'll be over soon.
Okay.
But she's probably adding about $8 trillion. So Trump added $5.5 trillion to the debt. She's adding $8.
And a lot of that deficit that Trump had was due to the COVID crisis.
Yeah, at least, I don't remember the figure. It's in the video, but at least $3 trillion was for COVID. It was like 0.68 and 17. He added to the debt 0.78, 0.98, and then like the last year was over 3.
Mm-hmm.
But she's he's at 5.5, she's at 8. So it's a talking point that she doesn't think anyone is actually going to research.
Yeah.
But I went to the government website, I pulled up each yearly deficit, added that to the debt, and the figures that I just gave you are accurate. She's added way more to the deficit than Trump did. But she's going to say, no, he's going to do this now if he gets elected. She forgets, bro. They both have records.
Yes, they do. And he has a great one. So,
yeah. Like she's running like Trump never held office and she's not in office now.
Yeah, right.
You know?
You're right.
And she keeps talking about Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs already retracted their support for her plan, saying that she misquoted it and took it out of context.
You said turn the page, Madam Vice President. You were asked on 2 different shows last week what, if anything, you would do differently than President Biden. Here's what you said.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
She's stolen.
And so
and I'm not
that would be
Donald
one
Trump
change
either.
in terms of, but also I think it's important to say with, 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
So you're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new...
Oh, my God. Oh,
Biden said that she's not going to run away from his policies.
How much does it bother you that Vice President Harris might soon, for political reasons, start to distance herself from your economic
She's not
plan?
going to.
You don't think
I'm surprised she did that.
President that comes in to office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership. I, for example, am someone who has not spent the majority of my career in Washington, D.C. I invite ideas, whether it be from the Republicans who are supporting me, who were just on stage with me minutes ago, and the business
sector,
what
she's talking about, right?
And others who can contribute to the decisions that
Liz Cheney. Yep.
Yeah.
Who's the other guy?
Rove. Is it Karl Rove part of that?
No, is it Karl Rove? Maybe I don't know if it's Karl Rove.
I thought Karl Rove was in there, but
who's the guy always crying?
Yeah, crying Kinzinger.
Oh yeah, Adam Kinzinger.
crying Kinzinger. Yeah.
Yeah, they support you. Good for you, Kamala.
I make about, for example, my plan for increasing the supply of housing in America and bringing down the cost of housing.
Yeah, well, let me tell you something. Let me just stop you there. The supply of housing. That housing is not going to Americans. We know it. You know it's going to be earmarked and it's going to be given to migrants.
Dude,
100%.
that is a great point, bro. That is a
100%. So she can sell that all she wants. And yeah, they are getting, but that housing is not going to go to Americans. It's going to go to freaking migrants. I'm guaranteeing that.
Dude, the video I just uploaded, I just did this maybe 4 days ago, talks about her empty promises. She promised to spend $7.5 billion on charging stations, places where you can go and plug your car in along the highway, right?
Yeah.
$7.5 billion. She and Joe said, this is back in 21, that she was going to build 500,000, 500,000 charging stations in 21. Here we are 3 years later. You know how many they build? 7.
Yeah, it's not crazy.
That's 7,000, bro.
What's the cost of one of those things? $100,000?
But that would mean that she only spent 700,000 of the 7.5 billion.
Where's the rest of the money?
Thank you. But it's just not an empty promise. It's incompetence. Here's the other thing, and this came up in Carolina with Helene where nobody had internet access. She also told us 3 years ago that she was going to spend $42 billion on broadband. Yeah. The name of the program was BEAD, B-E-A-D. The B stands for broadband. The E stands for equity. Because she said too many white people have internet and not enough minorities. She said it was going to cover 24 million people. They didn't have broadband access, and now 24 million people were going to get it. Here we are 3 years later. You know how many people got it? Zero. None. None. So you couldn't build charging stations. You couldn't run fiber optic cable. By the way, part of that bill required the people that lay the cable to be felons.
Oh, my God.
She wanted those who install the cable to have criminal records. That was one of the issues. Can you imagine, like you said, the equity stuff she's going to have attached to this housing plan?
Yeah.
Because you're right. It's not going to be for people who need it. It will be based on race. Just like she said, hurricane relief has to be based on race.
Yep.
Just like she says, broadband needs to be based on race. Just like the vaccine was given out based on race. If you were white, you had to deduct points. If you were a minority, you got points added.
Never in American history, modern history in any case, has the federal government made it official policy to withhold life-saving medical treatment from Americans on the basis of their skin color. But that's exactly what the CDC did. Those most likely to die of COVID had to wait weeks until their vaccines were approved. How many of them died in the meantime as they waited? No one kept track of those numbers because nobody seemed to care. And because nobody cared, the trend continued. Race had become a deciding factor in the distribution of critical health care in this country. Several states made it explicit. Whites would go last in the COVID vaccine queue, regardless of need. The state of Vermont did this, so did the state of Montana. The FDA provided guidance for physicians in all 50 states, telling them how to determine which patient should get this treatment, this critical treatment. Physicians, the FDA explained, should consider, quote, race and ethnicity as they administer treatments. And so physicians are doing that across the country. In Utah, COVID patients are triaged by a scoring system that determines whether or not they qualify for these potentially life-saving antibody treatments. Look at this chart. It shows the scoring system. You'll notice that race often counts more than physical health. The state of Utah, for example, gives 2 points to anyone simply for not being white. You win if you're not white. If you have congestive heart failure at the same time, you get 1 point. So if you're a white congestive heart failure patient, that's not enough for you. It's the same story in Minnesota. Minnesota awards 2 points to so-called BIPOC patients. That means anyone who's not white. If you have high blood pressure and you're 60 years old, you get 1 point. So tough luck for you. Imagine if that was one of your parents. It is one of someone's parents. In New York, writes Aaron Sabarium in a shocking new piece for the Washington Free Beacon, quote, racial minorities are automatically eligible for scarce COVID-19 therapeutics, regardless of age or underlying conditions. It doesn't matter what kind of health they're in. All that matters is their skin color. Whites don't qualify.
How about the latest? I don't know if you've seen this, and you probably have. The higher your credit score is, the more your mortgage is going to be.
Dude!
The lower your score is going to be, the better rates you're going to get.
Dude, I call it the white boy tax, bro. I pay. It's called, how did the broker tell me? It's called loan level pricing.
Yes.
My credit score was 804, right? Yeah. You know what that did to my mortgage payment? It rose it up $159 a month.
Yep.
I had to pay $159 a month for 360 months because my credit score.
For being responsible.
Dude, I forgot all about that, bro. I told my broker, it's the white boy tax. You know, you're paying so you're right. Just imagine what who the red tape and the equity nonsense that she's gonna have.
I just can't believe these banking companies are falling for it.
Dude, they step over each other, try to be more woke than the next one.
It's unbelievable.
They're just insane, bro. And also, dude, she's not talking about cost, right? Yeah. If the median house price is $412,000 and you multiply that by 3 million homes, you're well over $1.2 trillion just to build them. And then I don't know if she mentions the $25,000 down payment assistance in this interview.
Yeah, I think she does. Yeah.
Yeah, that raises it even higher. That's another $1.4 trillion.
To small businesses, which is about working with the private sector to bring more capital and access to capital to our small business leaders, including my plan for a $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers and for small businesses, extending the tax deduction from.
Dude, I just asked my daughter this. She's back in college. I said, Mia, what do you think would happen if everyone who got 25 grand, if everyone who wanted a home got $25,000 to purchase one, an additional $25,000 for free, no strings attached, to purchase one? And she says that'll drive the price of housing up.
That's right.
Everybody knows this. And this is what happened when she passed the EV tax credit, a $7,500 tax credit to buy an electric vehicle. As soon as that went into effect, auto manufacturers raised their prices $7,500. And when I uploaded the last video, somebody commented and she said, this is so true. The tax credit was actually in the contract of the Tesla that she bought. They are offsetting, they are raising the price in direct proportion to that tax credit.
Isn't that insane?
Dude, there's something I learned about called the Bennett hypothesis. He was the secretary in the 80s. His hypothesis was businesses will adjust their prices based on how much the customers are willing to pay.
Yep.
So you give these students more money that they don't have to pay back, colleges just raise their prices. And the student loan program, when she and Joe passed that program, which was unconstitutional, and she said we're going to cancel all student debt, that made college more expensive for everyone because colleges just raised their prices. So it's the same thing with this $25,000.
Yeah.
If every single person wants to buy a house and they got extra money, sellers will just raise their prices, just like the car manufacturers did, just like the colleges did. She's too dumb to understand this basic economic concept. And you know what, dude? This isn't an economic plan. This is a bullet point that's part of an economic plan. She says the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
She also talks about the tax credit, but unbelievable, dude. I think I remember you telling me when you got the $8,000 tax credit, sellers just raised their prices $8,000.
That's right.
Because they knew it was coming.
That's right.
Your campaign slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to turn the page. You've been vice president for 3.5 years. So what are you turning the page from?
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we have been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed and implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other.
Literally.
Rhetoric and an approach to leadership that suggests that the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down instead of what we all know. The strength of leadership is based on who you lift up.
The strength is based on their history, on what, Donald Trump has been tested. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And he's phenomenal. This freaking administration is just it's laughable. It's laughable.
Elon Musk said something like that. Didn't he say we had, what's that?
Remember the big thing? What are you going to say to, what was it? Hamas or whatever. Like, if you're going it was Iraq, to Iran. Don't. Remember?
Don't. Just don't.
And this big talking point, don't. It was just, I'm like, who is running their administration? Who is their media people? Kids.
What's the message to Iran?
Don't.
As President Biden said, just don't.
Exactly. One word. Pretty straightforward.
Dude, Elon Musk said something like that. I'll find the clip where he said, the strength of a leader, you see one gets shot in the ear and stands up and tells us to fight, and the other one falls going up the steps.
That's right. That's right.
Something like that.
That is true.
The true test of someone's character is how they behave under fire. And we had one president who couldn't climb a flight of stairs, and another who was fist pumping after getting shot. Fight, fight, fight! Blood coming down the face. Now, America is the home of the brave. And there's no truer test than courage under fire.
This is also one of her favorite talking points. She says that all the time. It's judged by who you lift up, not who you beat down.
And president, which is one who understands that the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us.
Madam Vice President, more than 70% of people
That is
tell
about turning the
pollsters-
page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
More than
people
70% of people
exhausted.
tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president.
Dude, I wish that he didn't interrupt her. Her response, I think this is it, where she says, well, Donald Trump has been running.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell kind of response was that?
I know, but he ruined it because he started speaking.
Yep. That's like saying, like, you know, if you accuse your kid of something, he's like, well, you know, Pete down the block is, you know what I mean? But she, like, it made no sense.
I wish he would have let her. I wish he would have let it just finish, bro, because that would have been a word salad, another word salad highlight.
Yep.
Here we go.
That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
She was lost right there. She was like, she was looking for a word. She's like, what did I just say? And Donald Trump has been running for office
for 10 years.
That's what he's doing.
Yeah. So stupid, bro. But he saves her. He doesn't even realize that he
does
saves
save her. Yeah. Yep.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about.
What,
You
no,
and I
I like.
both
What
know
does
what
he mean?
I'm
I actually don't. What are you talking?
What I'm talking about? He goes,
Say that again?
She goes, come on, Brett. You and I both know what I'm talking about. And he's like, you know,
I have no idea.
Yeah, she wanted a life ring at that point. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, dude, she doesn't know what she's talking about. You could see her gathering, but listen, a lot of people do this too. I'm sure that you've seen it on the job, where not only do they get defensive, but they think if they start talking loud, you will forget everything that happened in the last 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Where you were talking before about how she adjusted herself in the chair. She does it here when she goes off on him.
Yep.
But it's just meant to put something significant between the stupid thing that they just said and now, because now you're not talking about that now. Now you're listening to her get angry.
Yep.
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade, people have become. But listen. Over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff to the president, Donald Trump, former defense secretaries, national security advisor, and his vice president, one, that he is unfit to serve, that he is unstable, that he is dangerous, and that people are exhausted with someone who professes to be a leader who spends full time demeaning and engaging in personal grievances and it being about him instead of the American people. People are tired of that.
If that's the case, why is half the country supporting him? Why is he beating you
shouldn't have said
in a lot of swing states? Why, if he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States? Why is that happening?
Looking for an answer right now.
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
What the hell does that mean?
It's not supposed to be. It is not supposed to be a cakewalk for anyone.
So are they misguided, the 50%?
Listen,
are they stupid? What is it?
I would never say that about the American people. And in fact, if you listen to
Gen Z, stupid. 18 to 25-year-olds, they're stupid.
Yeah, I was just going to say that's exactly what she said.
What else do we know about this population, 18 through 24? They are stupid. That is why we put them in dormitories, and they have a resident assistant.
She's
Donald
ignorant.
Trump, if you watch any of his rallies, he's the one who tends to demean and belittle and diminish the American people. He's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy within, talking about the American people.
He's talking about Adam Schiff.
We have two enemies. We have the outside enemy, and then we have the enemy from within. And the enemy from within, in my opinion, is more dangerous than China, Russia, and all these countries, because if you have a smart president, he can handle them pretty easily. I got along great with all, I handled them. But the thing that's tougher to handle are these lunatics that we have inside, like Adam Shifty Schiff. Think of this guy's going to be a senator. He's running against a guy that doesn't understand politics at all, Garvey, but he was a good baseball player. But he doesn't understand politics at all. Adam Shifty Schiff, who's a total sleazebag, is going to become a senator.
If she doesn't understand that Donald Trump has a right to be pissed that these corrupt district attorneys that are trying to take away his business, put him in jail on bullshit charges, if she doesn't understand that he has a right to call them out and say that, yeah, they're the enemy of within. Alvin Bragg, Letitia James, Jack Smith, all these idiots, Fannie Willis, they're doing much more harm to the country and Trump than Russia is right now or other countries. He's talking about the people here. And she's going to talk about turning the military on the American people. That's another thing
that
she's going to take
a blatant lie.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. I'll pause it when she says it.
Suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
We asked that question to the former president today. Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
Before she says that, she's taking this out of context. That was an interview that Trump had with Maria Bartiromo when she was saying you have all of the 50,000 Chinese nationalists here. You have someone that was going to a terrorist attack that was going to happen on election day, but thankfully that was discovered and thwarted. We didn't have to worry about that. We have Antifa and BLM rioting in the city, in the streets, burning down cities. And he's saying, which I agree with 100%, if that happens on election day and they start burning the place down, we should bring in the National Guard.
Absolutely.
The Middle East, we're taking in massive numbers of people and many terrorists, and they're coming into our country, and they're Middle Eastern terrorists. And from Asia, we're taking in, and a lot from South America.
There was an Afghan refugee charged with plotting a U.S. Election Day massacre.
Nothing surprises me.
What about that, though? Are you expecting chaos on Election Day?
No, I don't think so. Not from the side that votes for Trump.
But I'm just wondering if these outside agitators will start up on Election Day. Let's say you win. I mean, let's remember, you've got 50,000 Chinese nationals in this country in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
You have people on the terrorist watch list, 350 in the last couple of years. You got, like you said, 13,000 murderers and 15,000 rapists.
Right.
What are you expecting? Joe Biden said he doesn't think it's going to be a peaceful Election Day.
Well, he doesn't have any idea what's happening in all fairness. He spends most of his day sleeping. I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within, not even the people that have come in and destroying our country. By the way, totally destroying our country. The towns, the villages, they're being inundated. But I don't think they're the problem in terms of Election Day. I think the bigger problem are the people from within. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics. And I think they're and it should be very easily handled by, if necessary, by National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military, because they can't let that happen.
Now she's trying to distract him with her anger. I think
he's trying to get quantity over quality, try to get as many questions as he can get in. But
it's a tough job for him.
Yeah.
All right, I'll play it.
George Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a fundraiser that he thought this was not the same Joe Biden that we saw on the debate stage.
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
I understand. You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
She's looking away.
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump, which is why the people who know him best, including leaders of our national security community, have all spoken out, even people who worked for him in the Oval Office, worked with him in the Situation Room, and have said he is unfit and dangerous and should never be president of the United States again, including his former vice president, which is why the job was open for him to choose another running mate. So that is a fact. That is a fact.
Brett's
Madam
trying
Vice
to find
President.
another question right now.
Two more things.
Yeah, he
You
goes
were
to
asked
Iran.
on
I feel
60
like this
Minutes
is
about the
a
biggest
wasted.
threat
Yeah.
that the world faces, that the U.S. faces. This is what you said.
Which foreign country do you consider to be our greatest adversary?
I think there's an obvious one in mind, which is Iran. Iran has American blood on their hands, okay? This attack on Israel, 200 ballistic missiles. What we need to do to ensure
gave them the money for that.
Iran
He shows the
never
graph. He shows
achieves
it.
the ability to
Barrels
be a
of
nuclear
money.
power.
Yeah. Oil.
That is one of my highest priorities.
A number of experts thought you would say China. The
She's
FBI
pissed, bro.
director had said that. But you said Iran. If that's the case, what do you say to critics who look at the actions of your administration and say you're not acting like Iran is the number one threat?
Dude, I got to pause it here because she's so dumb. He's trying to ask her, why haven't you put sanctions on Iran? Why have you lifted the sanctions already placed on Iran? Why are you giving money to Iran that they use to funnel down into Hezbollah and other terrorist groups?
Yeah.
Why are your policies not correlating with Iran being a threat? Why are your policies, the things that you're doing? And she takes it to a place where, well, I'm in the Situation Room on October 7th with our military leaders watching what's happening.
Yeah.
Totally, again, ignoring the question.
Yep.
Well, I will tell you most recently, whether it was in April or in October, and then several hours on each occasion, that Iran posed a threat to Israel.
See?
I was there. Most recently in the Situation Room, in the most recent attack, working with the heads of our military and doing what America must always do to defend and to support Israel in its requirement to defend itself, and to give American support to be able to allow Israel to have the resources to defend itself against attack, including from Iran and Iran's terrorist proxies in the region.
Right.
And that
But those
is,
proxies were getting funded by
my
Iran.
commitment to that is unyielding and unwavering.
Critics just say that you either relaxed or failed to enforce sanctions on Iran, allowing all of this money to flow into Iran, like billions.
Let's go back to Donald Trump, who pulled out of a deal that would have actually put Iran in check.
The estimates
and then
in billions.
It was during Donald Trump's
that
administration
go towards
that
the Iran regime.
That we had an American military base that was attacked, where American soldiers suffered traumatic brain injuries, and Donald Trump dismissed them as headaches. Not to mention how Donald Trump has treated and talked about America's military and military service people, calling them suckers and losers.
Hamas
has diminished the significance.
We're talking over each other. I apologize.
I would like that we would have a conversation that is grounded in full assessment of the facts, which includes, I think this interview is supposed to be about the choices that your viewers should be presented about this election. And
she presents herself as a woman who's fighting for every woman who hates men. I really believe that. I really believe there's a deep-rooted hatred of men there, and all of her followers and all of her voters are these single women who have been scorned by men, that hate men, and now they're going to blame Donald Trump and they're going to go to her side. That's why she always says, "Oh, I'm talking,
yeah,
you know, and you're interrupting me. Excuse me." Right. You know, so she's basically, I don't want to use that term Karen, but she's being a Karen, you know?
Yeah.
But that's what she's identifies herself as. And I think that, or I should say every one of her female voters identify themselves as, you know, a woman who has been scorned by men, and I'm going to protect you, and now I'm here to speak for you, you know?
Yeah, but dude, again, when it comes to the women's, when it comes to women endorsing her or voting for her or supporting her, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
The only issue is abortion.
Well, that's crazy. It's insanity. If she cared about women, she would care about
teenagers, 12, 13, 14-year-old women who are taking these cross-sex hormones that are sterilizing them for the rest of their lives, removing healthy body parts that can never go back and never lead a normal life after this, that are going through these horrendous surgeries. If she cared about women, she would care about, the women being assaulted, by putting men in sports. And you know what else I never understand, bro? There's obviously only two genders, male and female. And I must not have gotten the memo that says when you perform an abortion, it's always a boy. So at least he would say there's a 50% chance that when these millions of abortions are being performed, I would say at least half of them had to be female, right? Yeah. So were these young, innocent children inside the mother's womb that were girls, were they not going to grow up and eventually become women before they were ripped apart in the uterus and pulled out, one body part at a time?
Yeah.
Is it just boys? I mean, some of them are women. You want to talk about the war on women. It seems like abortion overlooks that it actually kills them. Yep. That's
the only policy that she's winning on.
Yes,
is abortion, and it's kind of sad if you think about it. That's where, because I've watched so many clips on all of these different social media outlets of women. They celebrate abortion. They're not regretful about it.
Right.
They celebrate it, and they almost actually say, "Well, I have 4," and I'm like, I'm almost like eager to get a 5th.
Yes. Yeah, they wear shirts. They have shirts printed up saying how many abortions they've had. And listen, I believe what Clinton says. It should be safe, legal, and rare. Yeah, that doesn't mean you got to get up there and scream about how great it is to kill babies.
That's right. Exactly. They're celebrating it more than anything else. It's sick. It's sick and twisted. But just like most of these policies that the Democrats have implemented in the last 8 years, or the last 4, let's say under the Biden administration, it's sick and twisted. A lot of the stuff is sick and twisted.
Yeah,
it really is evil and demonic.
Yeah. But she did this. She already has the women, like you say. She decided to do Fox News because she's losing with men, especially black men. Yeah. And this isn't going to make men vote for her. She comes off like a nasty bitch. I hate to say it.
That's exactly right.
She's whining. She's screaming in your ear. Yeah. She looks unhinged.
Yes.
No matter what they did to Trump, even when they shot him, he still kept his cool.
That's
and
right.
she looks like just like and a lot of her staff quit or gets fired.
Yeah.
Because they can't be around her. They can't
95% turnover rate, I believe it was.
What does that? I mean, what does that tell you? Like nobody could work with this woman.
Right.
And I remember when the Afghan withdrawal happened, it was leaked that she was furious and started screaming, "They are not going to pin this shit on me." Nothing about the soldiers that died or the sailor or the Marines or nothing. It was like, it was all politics. They are not going to pin this on me. She's a nasty person, bro.
Yes.
She's a nasty person. But the point, that of her making this interview and sitting down with Fox News and trying to win over some of their viewers is to win over men, which is what she's struggling with. And this did not help her. It made her look angry and a little unstable.
Yep.
A little unstable. When your response to every single question is Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, you look like a fool.
Yeah.
You look like a fool. Before we end, I want to talk about how Trump did during the debate because he angered me too about a couple of things, but we're almost done with this.
Yeah.
The contrast is important.
Yes, ma'am.
And on the subject of Iran, I am offering what should be an important contrast that is presented for folks to make a decision that they feel.
Who look at what the administration did and say and think differently. Madam Vice President, they're wrapping me very hard here.
Yeah.
I hope you got to say what you wanted to say about Donald Trump. There are a lot of things.
There's more to say. I have much more to say.
There are a lot of things that people want to learn about you and your policies.
Happy
and that's why
I invite everyone to go to KamalaHarris.com and you will see that I have 80 pages of policies that are quite comprehensive and should be accessible to anyone who would like to read them, and it includes what I intend.
All right, so that's done. Now I want to ask you something that I hope doesn't piss anybody off. I was a little mad about Trump after the debate. I was a little mad with him because, he didn't prepare, bro.
Yeah,
he didn't prepare for that debate, and it angers me because, look, I'm going to support Trump no matter what. I got 300 videos exposing the Democrats. I'm a Trump supporter. There's nothing he could do that would make me vote for someone other than Trump.
And there's nothing wrong with being a little angry at some of the things that he said or done, or it's okay.
Yeah, I was like, come on, bro. Like, you know what Romney did that was great? People need numbers. They need numbers. Like when Obama came out, and Obama was a good debater. When Obama came out and he talked about you can get a tax cut if you fire your workers or something like that.
Yeah.
And Romney said, I've been in business 25 years. I got to be honest. I have no idea what you're talking about.
And part of the way to do it is to not give tax breaks to companies that are shipping jobs overseas. Right now, you can actually take a deduction for moving a plant overseas. I think most Americans would say that doesn't make sense, and all that raises revenue.
You said you get a deduction for taking a plant overseas? Look, I've been in business for 25 years. I have no idea what you're talking about. I maybe need to get a new accountant. But the idea that you get a break for shipping jobs overseas is simply not the case.
And Obama was just stunned. He had nothing else to say.
Yeah.
I wish Trump would have brought facts.
Yeah.
Facts. Like he said, he talks in general terms. Like inflation was almost nothing under me, and what I did to you was what you did to the American people after I handed you the economy is a joke. Inflation went through. He should say, listen, the cost of housing was $338,000. Today it's $412. That's a 22% increase.
Yeah.
Or he could say, when I gave you inflation, the economy inflation was at 1.4%. You and drove it up to 9.1. Or he could say, not just about the border is ridiculous. The border is out of control. The border is, there's a lot. He could say, I had 2 million people come across our border when I was president. You're almost 10.5 million. Or under my administration, we stopped 13 people that were on the terrorist watch list. Excuse me. And under you and Joe, it's over 200. If he would have just given facts, it was terrible. The moderators were a disgrace, an absolute joke, and a disgrace.
Oh, they were. They were horrible.
It's not like Trump can't defeat 3 other Democrats, because remember in 2016 when he was on stage, there were 17 Republicans running.
Yeah.
So he has no problem, destroying the field.
Pick them off one by one. Yeah.
2 of the 3 people against him that day were in the chairs. They were moderators. So they got to, establish the tone of the interview, and he was constantly fact checked, and that angered me.
It pissed me off when they started fact checking him.
And they did the same thing with J.D. Vance.
Yes.
Right? But J.D. Vance handled it.
He did
much differently.
He did.
I love J.D. Vance. It turned out to be a great pick.
Yep.
But he and I wanted Vance to give it to Tim, and to be a little bit more forceful. I wish he would have said the things that we all wanted him to say. And he was being nice and respectful. And he said, one of the things he said, J.D. Vance what he said was, Tim, you have a very difficult job because you have to play whack-a-mole and come out here and pretend that the last 4 years on the Kamala and Joe, that, things are going well, and the economy is well, and immigration as well. And what he should have said at some point, I think, and it's so easy to Monday morning quarterback this, is say, Tim, I have a hard job too, because we don't know each other. We just met, and standing next to you, I got to be honest, you seem like a nice man. So I don't want to have to do this, but I have to for the American people.
Yeah.
You're a liar, or you have a very difficult time telling the American people the truth. And he could have just bang, 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 bang. And JD Vance is smart enough to do it in a way where like he'll do it so politely that you'll end up thanking him for it, you know? But I feel like he didn't go for the jugular. And a lot of people are saying that debate wasn't for me and you. It was for people who thought JD Vance was weird, that he was, you know.
Yeah, I think JD Vance, his debate moved the needle. I don't think the Trump Kamala debate moved the needle at all. I think everybody it was just like tuning in just to get some, you know, some sort of laughter out of it or whatever, to see how stupid she is. And, you know, and then Trump just going on one of his tirades, of course. But yeah, he didn't present, Trump didn't present, you know, and then with the cats and dogs thing, I'm like, okay, I got that, but let's get a little bit more substance with that. Let's get a little bit more deeper, you know, evidence of that. That wasn't the time and place to bring that up. Dude, because that just changed the whole debate.
Yes,
at that
exactly. 100%. My wife threw her hands up like this.
Yeah, and I was like, I was like sinking in my seat.
30 seconds after that, I get a text from my old partner, Kenny, and he goes, "That's a wrap. It's over."
Yeah.
And what I think we all agree with, even if it's true, his delivery and the way he said it, and his response to being challenged about it was, well, I see videos online.
Yeah.
It looked like, dude, let's just be honest, bro. He did not prepare.
He could have really presented that in a different format. And, you know, instead of saying they're eating cats and dogs, he could have said, you know, we have these illegal people coming into this country with different cultures and different mindsets that are bringing their culture here. And as a result of that, people, you know, are you know, losing cats and dogs, you know, because of you know, whatever. He could have delivered it differently, not as like they're zombie-like and they're coming here
right.
eating the dog.
Dude, he could have, and who knows, bro? It might be true, but he could have just given it. He could have just given us the numbers. Listen, you have 20,000 Haitians being dropped off in a town with 50,000 people.
Yeah.
That's an increase in population of 40%. So this country has 330 million. That's like an extra 125 million.
Right.
Walking in, right?
Yeah.
No, 40%, even more, right?
Yep.
So whatever the math is, but my point is he didn't even have to make it about race. He didn't have to make it about the origin. They could have been Chinese, they could have been, you know, from anywhere. It's an influx of 40,000 new residents or 40% more new residents that no town is equipped to handle. Dude, do you remember when they dropped the immigrants off in Martha's Vineyard? They took the military and flew them out, and it was only 50. 50.
50, yeah.
50.
Yep.
George Carlin has a great skit, bro. I don't know if you've ever heard it. It's called NIMBY, Not in My Backyard.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's build it. Yeah. Not by
my
me.
Backyard. Yeah.
Not by me. No. Get that
I'll
shit
say
far
this.
away from me.
We got something in this country, you've heard of it, it's called NIMBY, N-I-M-B-Y. Not in my backyard. People don't want any kind of social help located anywhere near them. You try to open up a halfway house, try to open up a rehab center for drugs or alcohol, try to build a little home for some retarded people who want to work their way into the community. People say, not in my backyard.
I'll say this about the debates. Everybody, and including myself, always look forward to a presidential debate. And in this instance, I enjoyed the JD Vance debate 100 times more than I enjoyed the Trump
100%, bro.
Because I was like tuned out in 15 minutes with Trump debating her, and then of course I got you know angry because you know her when she'd look over and put a hand on the chin, but JD Vance brought back the enjoyment of watching a legitimate debate. You know,
he's a good politician.
He's a good politician, but but on top of being a good politician, he also presents a lot of qualities that are more relatable to the average person. I think.
Yeah. You know what else I think is Trump's a business person. Kamala, supposedly she's a prosecutor. But you had the same thing with Romney and Obama, because Obama was a great debater.
Yeah.
Romney's a businessman. Obama is an attorney. And when you get that dynamic where that's all you do.
Yep.
I mean, Trump negotiates in back rooms and, you know, he's an amazing businessman. But when you're a prosecutor that's all you do. And JD Vance is a Yale trained lawyer, and he's just, you know.
Oh, he was amazing. He was amazing. I enjoyed that.
But he could have done better, bro. He could have done, like, people on our side, conservatives were like, oh, he was great. And I was looking at it going, JD Vance did well, but I don't think Tim Walz did that poorly. He was obviously nervous.
Yeah.
But I don't think he wasn't a June Biden when Biden bombed.
The self-deprecation, though, you know, called himself a knucklehead. That type of stuff is like, well, do you want a knucklehead, you know, running? What? Nonetheless, J.D. Vance's stance, his presence was really, really impressive.
I do think it helped him. After the Trump debate, a lot of people were saying what you said. It's not going to move the needle. If you wanted Trump before that, you still do.
Yep.
And if you wanted Harris before that, you still do.
Yep.
But there was a guy in Glenn Beck. It was on the after party. I forgot the guy's name. He's really smart. White guy, wears glasses. I'll put his picture up, where he actually said, when they were saying, I don't think this is going to change anyone's minds. Do you? And he raised his hand. He goes, I do. Now, you got to go back to the September debate, right? So much has happened since then, right?
Yeah.
But if you think about how you felt after that debate ended, he said the one thing Trump couldn't do was to let her be established, or let her establish herself as a serious candidate.
Yeah.
Every single clip we've seen of Kamala Harris up until that debate, she was a laughing, babbling fool.
Yes.
And he could not let people watch that and leave with the impression that she was at least well-rounded, put together, and could articulate a normal response.
Does anyone think like this race was upended tonight?
Oh, yes.
You think it was upended?
I do. Yeah.
In what way?
Because she is now a viable president to a lot of people who were unsure before.
That's true. She has sealed. That's anybody who said they wanted more information about her.
Correct.
Couldn't see it.
That would be and there were. I think Fox had a poll a few days ago. By a 3-to-1 margin, people wanted more information on her, which would make sense. Trump's run 3 times, but even before he ran, he was one of the most famous people in the world. You'd think like you know everything, right? And so all you heard is this woman's an idiot, this woman's a moron, which frankly, up until moments like this, she had been her entire political career, right? And then she comes in here tonight and performs as well as she did. Absolutely. Like, I doubt we'll ever see anything other than like the formal end of America, like with the June 27th debate did.
Yeah, that's a high standard.
All right? They crossed the biggest threshold a new candidate always has, which is, are you a credible president? They crossed that threshold. The job certainly got harder tonight.
I don't like the way she did it. I think it hurt her. I think it hurt her picking on this old man, right? And like, just like, this is why she's turned off to so many men, right? She's like, you are a disgrace. Like, just like the demeaning of it. And she has the nerve to say that Trump demeans people. So I think it hurt her, but she won the debate. I have no problem admitting that she won the debate.
She won the debate, though, with the assistance of the fact checkers, and not fact checking her, but fact checking Trump.
Right, dude. Can you? And I heard there's a whistleblower that says that, I don't know if that's true or not. They're still researching it.
It kind of got buried now, though. I know what you're talking
about. It did, right?
Yeah.
Because that would make perfect sense. But listen, if you're in an argument or in a conversation with anyone, bro, your coworker, your boss, your spouse, whoever it is, a friend, and you're both trying to prove a point. Imagine how easy it would be for you to win every single argument if you could just make up facts.
Yeah, right,
if you could just lie about everything.
Yeah.
Of course,
you're
going to
have
be
the
winner.
support of the media backing you up. You know, it's.
I was sick after that debate.
It's gaslighting. That's gaslighting 101. You know.
Yeah, I was so pissed about it. Anyway, so we got let's see, 12. Today's the 19th. We got 16 days, the 5th. 17 days to election. Yeah. Election day.
Yeah.
Is Trump going to win?
I've said this in the last one.
If it's fair,
Trump will win handedly. 100%. There's no in any. You know, I'm sorry. He will win. Yes, he will win. So I don't know what's going to take place I'm really concerned with Pennsylvania, because Pennsylvania is a key state. He's got, if he wins Pennsylvania, he's got it. I don't care what happens. The paths all lead to with Pennsylvania. If he doesn't take Pennsylvania, he's got other paths. Throw in an oddball state, New York, New Jersey.
He's not going to do that.
I don't know.
He has to win Pennsylvania. I think it will.
He has to win Pennsylvania, but
I think he'll win Georgia.
Yeah, no, he's going to win North Carolina.
You sure,
Michigan. He's up like 4 points in North Carolina, and that's with some really shit poll company. So, and Michigan is Gretchen Whitmer's state. I don't trust it at all. You could check, put that in the left box. You could put that in the blue box. But Minnesota, yeah. But there's going to be some surprises, and I don't know what those surprises are going to be. But I can't see what happened in 2020, where I stayed up all night and then I woke up the next morning and Trump, who has won Pennsylvania by like 1 million votes, and they've never called, by the way.
Right.
He loses it, and I'm like, it's just improbable. But
dude, I made a video right after that. It was like the second or third video I made, and I got flagged. But I'm gonna put a clip of it now. Because here's the premise of the Democrats. When we went to bed, Trump was leading in these polls.
Yeah.
But the mail-in ballots up until that point had not been counted yet. Once those ballots from the people that mailed in their ballots were counted and added and tallied up and added to the total, because those ballots were mostly Democrat, it pushed him over. I'll add it here, bro. That is not true. Yeah. According to NBC News, and I'll play the clip, most of the mail-in ballots leaned Republican. In at least two, I think it was Wisconsin, I forgot, maybe the other one was Michigan, where they say all of the Democrats flooded, came in late with mail-ins. Most of them belong to Republicans. So even the premise of that is flawed. It's not true. They were mostly Republicans, so that should have increased his lead. Yeah. Okay, so this is Michigan. Trump has this press conference right around here. Look at the gap he's opened up against Biden, right? We go to sleep, we wake up, and we find out that Trump and Biden are now tied. When you plot these votes on a graph, look at the vertical line for Biden. Look at this. No votes for Trump. All Biden. And of course, this happened while we were sleeping. This is a little after 6 a.m. Come on, man. We're not stupid. We're not stupid. And the Democrats are going to tell you, well, that's all of the absentee ballots and all of the mail-in ballots. They all lean Democrat, so that's why Biden got this bump. I'm going to show you how that's not true. So here is the breakdown of the mail-in ballots for the state of Michigan. You can see 3.4 million were requested. A little over 3.1 million were returned. But 42% of those ballots went to the GOP. The Democrats only got 38%. So how can you justify that bump for Biden on mail-in ballots when most of those mail-in ballots would have gone for Trump? Okay, so this is Wisconsin. You can see Trump has his press conference right around here. He's pulling away from Biden. And the same thing happens. We wake up at 6 a.m. We find out now that Biden's actually in the lead. When we plot these on a graph, we see all of these votes coming in for Biden. Another vertical line. This is impossible. They expect us to believe this, though, like we're stupid. They're going to blame it again, just like they did in Michigan, on the absentee ballots. They're going to tell you, well, all of those ballots were leaning Democrat, and that's why Biden got this bump. I'm going to show you how that's not true. Okay, so this is the breakdown of mail-in ballots for Wisconsin. You can see they asked for 2 million ballots. They got back a little under 1.9 million. But again, look at the breakdown. 43% of those ballots went to the GOP. They registered Republican. So of the 1,889,000 ballots, 43% were registered Republicans and only 35% were registered for Democrats. This is coming from NBC News, by the way. Look at this. Hardly a friend of Trump, right? So when they're blaming Wisconsin, that bump for Biden on mail-in ballots, it's just a lie. It's just a lie because most of those mail-in ballots went for Trump. Let me ask you this. My wife brought up a great point. For years, we've been hearing that, the Muslims don't like Trump because of the Muslim ban and all this stuff that the way he said it and stuff that I don't agree with. But then she brought up when I was watching the Minnesota poll, she's like, of course Muslims are going to vote for Trump. They're conservative. And I looked at her and I said, I never thought about that. I'm like, conservative? Like, what do you mean? She says, in 16 and 20, this transgender nonsense.
Yeah.
Especially for children. She goes, Muslims don't deal with that shit.
No.
They're not going to let their kids dress up as girls. That, they want full coverage. And I know someone that lived in Dubai for 7 years, and she was saying that they don't even want parts of the shoulder exposed. Like if you had like a tube top, they don't like that. So I really think that she has a point, bro. I think that I think if you had to pick one issue. Go ahead.
I was going to say, wouldn't it be crazy if that's what shifts the whole election?
It would be. I mean, most of them are located in Minnesota, and if he wins Minnesota and doesn't win Pennsylvania, then I think it wouldn't matter. But again, if he wins Minnesota, he's probably going to – if he could win there, he could probably clean house.
And talk about two groups here that don't normally change the whole look of the election. How about the Pennsylvania Amish? I just read something this morning that their registrations went up to over 50,000 people registered.
I didn't know there were that many. Yeah. Well, they would be pro-Trump anyway, wouldn't they?
They don't generally vote. They don't.
I was going to say,
but there are pictures of horse and buggies with Trump flags on them. So
I saw some of those.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things going on that there's the underground vote. You ever see that picture they show? It's like a glacier.
Yeah,
and you see the top of the glacier and
the bottom.
And the bottom is all that's hidden underwater. That there's a lot of hidden vote. I really believe so. And I believe in 2020 there was a lot of ways to get away with a lot of stuff. I'm not saying that we're going to have a clean election, because we're not. But if it's 50% cleaner than it was in 2020, we'll have a victory. That's my thought.
Well, here's the fear that I had after that debate. I feel like Joe is so bad, especially after his debate, that they wouldn't even possibly think of cheating to get him in, because they're going to say, listen, we can't. You think the American people are going to buy that he beat Trump when he had that debate performance? They would not be able to. They would not
be able to sell it. They're not going to be able to sell it.
They're
like
not going to be able. But this is what bothered me at the debate. After Kamala debated him, I think they're at the point where they'd say, you know what, we could probably push this through now, because she did well enough so that people would say, why? She did well in the debate. Of course she beat him. Or why she. I don't know. Her internal pollings must be a disaster. That's why she did.
I've heard that from some of the people I work for or work with, that her internal pollings are really disastrous, and Trump's are obviously very well positioned right now. So
I hope so, bro.
I hope so too. I hope so too.
I would say that probably the biggest issue that pushed Democrats over to the Republicans has got to be the trans thing.
Yeah.
Has to be, because I know people that are Democrats,
parents,
and they hate Trump, and maybe they won't vote for Trump.
Yep.
But they said, you know what? Once you started with the children, and I got to just from this is anecdotally, I don't have any figures on this, but just from what I see, when it comes to the children, they're all white kids, bro.
Yeah,
they're all white kids, usually along the coast. Yep. They're usually single, raised by single women. Not always, right? You get some blue-haired father freaks in there, but the black vote, they don't do that to their kids, bro.
Yeah.
The Hispanic Michael Savage. I don't know if you ever listened to Michael Savage.
Yeah, I know Michael Savage. Yeah.
I love Michael Savage. He's off the air. They kicked him off the air, but he's on YouTube now.
Yep.
He's 81 years old, and he said the Hispanic vote will always vote for Trump, because this is when Hillary was running. He said because they're very macho. Yeah. They don't want to take orders from a woman, especially a Grinch like Hillary.
Yes.
And I do notice that, bro. I don't see any of the trans stuff that's pushed on children. I don't see black children doing that. I don't see Hispanic parents doing it to their kids.
Always
it's
the
all
white liberal parents, mostly the females that are divorced oh well, no, you know, my son played with my shoes, so now he wants to be a woman.
Yeah,
you know what I
we're
mean?
going to let him choose his gender. I never hear that from. So that's another reason why, because Trump's smart enough to run that ad about the surgery for prisoners, the trans surgery for prisoners. He's smart enough to run it during football games and shows that men watch, because even Charlemagne watched that and he's like, I can't believe I didn't know that.
That ad they was running during the football games this weekend, claiming the vice president supports funding gender transition surgeries for all prison inmates and migrants in the U.S. That was nuts.
I
don't know if it was.
I wouldn't say nuts, but that was crazy.
That was funny.
I don't know if it was the backdrop of football, but when you hear the narrator say Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners, that one line, I was like, hell no, I don't want my taxpayer dollars going to that.
The case that she talked about, where she said, I fought for it, and I got this transgender woman the surgery, and I changed the policy, and she's so proud of it. That guy kidnapped a 38-year-old man. He had 3 children, stole $80 from him, kidnapped him, and then shot him after he begged for his life.
Wow.
And his daughter now, who's of age to she has a job and to vote, she says, my tax dollars are going for the surgery, the transgender surgery of the person who killed my father. And the guy admitted, he begged for his life.
Wow.
And I shot him anyway. Wow. And the most recent one, that is in the news about the transgender surgery, another prisoner, he's on death row. You know what this guy did? He pretended that he was going to buy a boat and lured an elderly couple onto the boat.
Oh yeah, I remember this case.
I want to test drive it, right?
Yep.
And then he used the stun gun to subdue the wife, told the husband, I'm going to keep doing this to your wife until you sign over the paperwork.
Yep.
So the husband did it and said, just leave my wife alone. I'll sign it. But they weren't off the hook then.
No.
Because after they finally got it, he tied them to the anchor of the boat. And he said this in court later. The husband was stroking his wife's hand. They knew they were going to die. And he told his wife, don't worry, babe, we're going to be together. We'll always be together. Tied them to the anchor and threw the anchor overboard. This, I don't have a word for him, Mike.
Yeah.
But he now just got breast augmentation.
Unbelievable.
And full surgery. I don't know if he got the bottom surgery yet, but he got it on taxpayer money that you have paid. When people look at their tax check and they want to know where all the money's going, it's going to surgeries like this for this animal. And this guy is on death row.
Unbelievable.
Awaiting to be, exterminated.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
they're paying for surgeries to enhance life.
And it's based on a surgery, on a policy that she pushed. So when she says that garbage nonsense, that terrible answer about, well, I follow the law. You know what? It's a law that you tried to change and got changed in California. So I think that's going to revolt. Men are going to revolt and be disgusted by that.
So.
She needs black men.
Yes.
And like I said, man, they're not going for that shit. They're not going for that.
They're not.
I don't know if she has white men. She definitely has white women.
Well, she doesn't have white gay. I shouldn't say that, because I've seen there's a lot of white gay men who are also Trump supporters now.
Yes, dude. There's a place what would you call it? A handle? A person I follow, a group called Gays Against Groomers. Did you ever see some of the stuff they put out?
Yeah, I know exactly.
Oh my God, they're so anti grooming and against the these people. These children, bro. These children, 12, 13 years old. They're going through these surgeries. They're never going to be the same.
No, and they regret every single one of them. Almost regrets it when they get older. Every single one. They all
exactly. They say that 90% of them, if they would just not do anything, they would grow out of it.
Yeah, they grow out of it. Yep. Because
But anyway, my whole point to that was, I think that's why the Muslims might vote for Trump, along with the white rural voters.
Yep.
And he's never going to get the white women.
No,
I don't think.
The white divorced angry women he's not going to get.
No, the cat ladies.
Yeah, the cat. Yeah, let's be honest. That's right. That's what they are.
Yeah, of all the stuff.
Vance is right with that.
Yeah, and let me just finish by this. You and I will support Trump no matter what, but this is one thing I wish he would stop doing. President Trump, listen to me, bro. it is you sometimes make it hard for us because he's a brilliant man, and he has to know by now. He's 8 years in, right? 16 to 24. He's been doing this. He's going to have another 4 years under his belt. He has to know that the Democrats cannot be trusted and the media is corrupt. He runs on it, and obviously he's aware of it.
Yeah.
When he says things, even as a joke, when he says things like, I'm going to be a dictator only on day one, we all get it. We all get it. But Donald, you have to know what they're going to do with a statement like that.
Yes.
It makes it hard. There is so much noise around that issue that it makes it hard to come out and say, okay, well, I got to defend him on this and prove that that's not what he meant.
Right.
And when he says, sometimes they no matter what he says, it isn't going to be taken out of context. Like when he said, if I don't get elected, it'll be a bloodbath. Everyone knew that he was talking about the economy.
Yeah, of
right.
course.
So I don't fault him for stuff like that. But when he said things like the first time around with John McCain, I like people that weren't captured.
Yeah, I know.
Right? Come on, dude. Come on. So some of the stuff is hard to, but my point is, he's the best. Reagan was elected in 80. I was 10. I didn't know anything about politics. Yep. Trump has a record, and he's one of the best presidents we've ever had. And I pray that I really do. I pray that he gets into the White House. So I'm going to vote for him no matter what. It's just that I wish he would make it. I wish he wouldn't put these stumbling blocks in front of it. Like, you ever watch those movies where they're trying to run away from someone and they throw the furniture down and he's got to hop over it now while the door is locked? Like, Donald, you have to know by now that they lie, cheat, and steal. Obviously, he knows that. This is stupid for me to even say it. But I just wish he would say, if I say this, they're going to run with it. It'll be all over the news.
That's your wish. My wish is that his cabinet and his administration gets vetted the right way. I think Donald Trump Jr. is putting together a list right now of people not to be anywhere near his administration. He needs loyalists. He needs people who are fearless, that are not going to flip on him. But when you put jail in front of people all the time, you know what happens. And so he needs people who are fearless. He needs R.F. Kennedy. He needs Tulsi Gabbard. He needs Elon Musk, big time.
That's a great,
and he needs your dog. That's why.
Yeah, he needs Bear.
The
cat's trying to get in. I gotta let the cat in. I feel terrible. Anyway, so what do we do? We're close to 3 hours.
Yeah.
Bro, thank you for spending your day with me. Appreciate it. It's great to see you again. Thanks for the insight.
Yep.
Maybe we'll do one more before the election. I'm sure. Do you think there's going to be an October surprise?
We're already into October pretty deep now. I don't
12
think so.
days.
I don't think so. I just read something though this morning, actually on our break here, that U.S. intelligence agencies are saying there's going to be a 9/11 type of cyber attack on election day. I hope that's not the case.
You know what's funny? I got to call my friend Sal then, because he was on last, I think in December, and he was saying, because he listens to those posts and those conspiracy theorists,
Like
and a lot of the times they're
like
wrong.
that, or
He swears that that's going to happen, and I just spoke to him, and I said, "Are you sure?" He's like, "Guaranteed, guaranteed." So I hear that too. One of the October surprises I thought was pretty relevant. They just caught Kamala Harris plagiarizing her whole book.
Yeah,
and did you hear about that? No one's even mentioning it.
Yeah, and then I think she showed a picture of her grandmother, which is not her grandmother. Did you see that?
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, look at Candace Owens stuff recently. Yeah, there's some stuff.
Dude,
about that
everything about her is fake. When Trump said they're bussing in people,
it's all manufactured, fabricated stuff.
It's fake, bro.
Yep,
it's fake. And I hope the polls are. So we'll know soon. But come back. I think we'll do an episode on cop stuff before that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's so much stuff in the news and stuff about police, especially in New York. But anyway, brother, good to see you again.
Likewise.
I appreciate it. Come back soon, all right, bro? Don't sign off because
I won't.
all right, brother. Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
All right,
Great
I'll
to
see
see
you.
you.
Be good.
Thank you.